everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
Naruto Ninja World Scientific Revolution, Chapter 361 to 377, Chapter 361. 1,519 words. The medical capabilities of the Sand Federation were already solid, and with Hyuga Mirai, the top medical shinobi, present, he naturally set the ceiling for their entire medical system. Anyone severely injured who could at least hold on until reaching a hospital had a chance of surviving. But someone like the Raikage was a different case. There were bombs not only attached to his restraints, but also hidden inside his body. If anyone tried removing them, they would explode. If they left their designated zone or lost signal, they would also explode. This was the Federation's form of respect toward powerful shinobi who remained dangerous even without chakra, those who could defeat Chunin with taijutsu alone. After the prisoners arrived, the allied shinobi forces were driven off the transports and brought to a mining site. The overseer stood before them and shouted, "You're all new here, and have never worked in a mine. So I'll tell you the rules now. Listen carefully. What matters most here is following the rules. Obey them, and you can live out your days safely. Break them, and..." He let the threat hang in the air as he addressed the thousands of allied shinobi. These were former elites from their respective villages. Along with the 5 Kage, they had once stood at the top. To suddenly be forced into hard labor as miners was a humiliation few could swallow. There was no doubt someone would cause trouble. By stating the rules up front, the overseer made it clear, if anyone rebelled and died for it, it was their own fault. But if they behaved and worked, they would be fed well, and those who performed best could even apply for reduced time before returning home. As long as they held no rebellious intent, they could live decently. Hyuga Mirai wasn't a devil. He believed in efficient use of every resource, including human labor. After explaining the regulations, the overseer divided the shinobi into small teams based on tasks, and assigned veteran workers to lead them down into the mines. For shinobi who had once been revered, being forced into such work was a deep humiliation. But anyone with a stiff spine had already been killed for causing trouble. Those who remained were the ones who still intended to survive. Otherwise, they wouldn't even get food. About 2,000 were left in this particular mining zone. The rest were assigned to other nearby sites. The overseer already had plans. With nearly 5,000 miners rotating in shifts day and night, they could push this mine to the danger limit within 5 years. When that happened, he'd likely get a promotion. Given how quickly the Federation was developing, they needed manpower everywhere. They were practically begging to recruit anyone who wasn't farming, even offering impressive wages. Federation civilians who signed on to be miners enjoyed proper rest, good meals, and earned money. But the allied shinobi were different. They could shorten their labor term only with absolutely flawless behavior. If they committed even a single offense within 5 years, their time would reset. Only those with exceptional discipline stood a chance of going home. But the 4th Raikage would never accept spending 5 years as a miner. He still had a village and a missing younger brother. If he saw even the slightest opportunity, he would try to escape. Inside the Sand Federation, the moment the fake 3rd Chunin exam ended, the Federation announced the treacherous plot of the lands of lightning, earth, and water. They had intended to attack the Federation during the exam. Fortunately, the Federation and Konoha detected the plan early and crushed the schemes of the Cloud, Stone, and Mist. The joint operation brought enormous victory for the Federation. This news was sent across the nation via newspapers, while wealthier families with Uzumaki Trade Association computers got the report even earlier. The Federation's newspapers were still new. Only a portion reported domestic affairs, most pages were job postings. In fact, the newspaper itself was basically a recruitment bulletin. Each town received only 100 copies. 5 had to be displayed publicly at newspaper stands. The remaining copies sold out instantly. Most civilians had to crowd around the posted copies to read the news, cramped, but at least guides were stationed nearby to explain everything for free. I didn't expect something this big to happen during our exam. Is Konoha going to merge with the Sand Federation? Sakura Haruno asked after reading the final section, which mentioned the possibility of deeper cooperation or even unification. She recalled the Federation's meteoric rise. Maybe. But I'm sure the truth isn't what the paper says, Nara Shikamaru answered, scratching his head. If everything were so simple, then his teacher's actions, his father's decisions, and the Federation's behavior would make no sense. He leaned toward his own deductions instead. He looked back at the photo on the front page, the fifth Hokage and Hyuga Mirai standing side by side, overlooking the captured allied shinobi. When would those shinobi get to return home? Shikamaru felt a rising frustration. After the exam ended, they had been stuck in the Federation. Even their supervising Chunin had no idea when they would be allowed to leave, only that they had to wait. Everything about this exam was strange. Of the 6 Konoha genin, only Sakura reached the second round. The rest were eliminated in the first match of the third round. And yet, in the final decision, all 5 besides Sakura were promoted to Chunin. After thinking it over again and again, Shikamaru realized that the only shared, qualifying feature of those 5 was their clan influence, which Sakura lacked. He didn't want to tell her this. The politics behind the Chunin exam were not something a bunch of recent graduates could interfere with. Even if Shikamaru guessed part of the truth, all he could do was follow orders. He wasn't like Ino or Sakura, whose first reaction to the Konoha Federation merger rumor was, "Can we get closer to Uchiha Sasuke?" If Shikamaru had stepped outside, he would have run into the Hokage herself drinking in a daytime tavern. Ever since arriving in the Federation, Tsunade had been dragged around by Kushina Uzumaki, who excitedly took her sightseeing. They even pulled Uchiha Mikoto and Ayaka Uzumaki along, indulging themselves for 2 days straight at Commerce City. During that time, Naruto Uzumaki and Uchiha Sasuke survived on takeout. When they returned, Tsunade wandered the capital looking for taverns and restaurants. Since Hyuga Mirai was a gourmet, he had recruited every champion from the land of hot water's culinary god competition, giving the capital an enviable dining scene unmatched elsewhere. Late morning, Tsunade, still smelling of alcohol, was dragged inside by Ayaka Uzumaki. Ever since arriving, she'd been staying at Kushina's home. She also learned for the first time that Noera Rin was alive and carried the 3 tails sealed within her. The past few nights, Rin had frequently sought Tsunade's guidance in medical ninjutsu. Meeting her childhood idol left Rin thrilled. But moments earlier, Tsunade had been stopped by Ayaka, on Hyuga Mirai's orders. Ayaka had been using Kagura's mind eye to track her movements, and as soon as Tsunade neared the door, she blocked the way. Dragged inside and seeing Hyuga Mirai reading the paper, Tsunade felt a flicker of guilt before forcing it down. This was her well-earned vacation. Why feel guilty? She hadn't exceeded the allotted time. 5th Hokage, the 6th Hokage wants to know when you're coming back. Tsunade froze, then exploded. I haven't even returned yet, and the village already has a 6th Hokage. Damn it. Yakushi Kabuto, Mirai said, cutting her off. He hasn't officially been appointed, but he's doing all the Hokage's work. Tsunade's anger evaporated instantly. Kabuto, huh? Well, he's not bad. Maybe he's suitable for the position. Today is your last day. I'll personally take you back. Kabuto and Nara Shikaku can't handle this workload alone, even with shadow clones. I've already written out Konoha's next development plan. Hyuga Mirai, ever the capitalist, couldn't stand watching someone lounge around so freely. Agreeing to give Tsunade 7 days already made him regretful. Her eyes widened in protest. Tonight makes 7 days. That's not how I calculate it. By my count, you're already half a day over. Let's go. I'll take you back myself. Mirai took the sake bottle from her hands and handed it to Ayaka for safekeeping. Tsunade wouldn't have time to drink soon anyway. My sake. No sake, only Konoha's development blueprint. He pushed her reaching hand aside and tossed her directly into Yominokuni's rift. After giving Ayaka instructions, he followed her in. One after another, they all wanted to retire early. As if it were that easy. No revolution had ever paused halfway for a vacation. Tsunade was like this. Pakura was like this. Mirai had already instructed the newspaper department, next issue, they would glorify Pakura's battlefield achievements. They had taken plenty of photos of her freezing half the sea while scorching the other half. Once the Federation broadcast her legend to the public, she wouldn't be allowed to retire for at least 10 more years. End of chapter. Chapter 362, Chapter 362. 1124 words. Illusion space. The formal members of Akatsuki had gathered, totaling 9. The newest member, Deidara, was young, but his abilities were formidable. He possessed the rare skill of flight, and his clay explosives were deadly, effective against both tailed beasts and ordinary ninjas. 9 figures appeared in the illusion space. Upon seeing Pain, Tendo Kakuzu impatiently complained, "Boss, if you call me again while I'm counting my money, I'm quitting the organization. All the tailed beasts are captured, what else is there to do? It's probably because of the moves by the Sand Federation. I didn't expect them to make such a bold move. They captured 3 of the 5 Kage, and Konoha's Hokage has joined the Federation. Looks like this nation will dominate the ninja world next. They might even unify it." Kisame spoke with a sinister chuckle. He had grown fond of the Sand Federation newspapers. Usually, he would buy a copy at an underground exchange the day after it was released. The news was a day late, but that didn't bother him. The Federation's newspapers seemed to undervalue intelligence, or perhaps they only published non-critical news. Either way, Kisame enjoyed reading them. "What's going on? What happened to the 5 Kage?" Haydn asked, confused. He sensed a major event in the ninja world from Kisame's words, but had no details. "Go buy some Sand Federation papers, Haydn, instead of preaching that broken cult all day." Haydn angrily retorted, "It's the cult of the divine, damn it Kakuzu. Are you trying to curse me? If you can, go ahead." "Fine. Wait for me, I'll come for you." "Enough." Tendo Pain interrupted. Akatsuki's members were all rebellious rogue ninjas. Even Nagato struggled to fully command them, especially the newly joined Haydn, who, fearless of death, constantly provoked others. Currently, the Sand Federation and Konoha show signs of merging. If the other 3 great ninja villages don't want to be absorbed, they'll unite. The next step for the organization is to facilitate their alliance, and have them hire Akatsuki for combat operations, Pain calmly explained. Hidden Mist is too far, so we'll primarily negotiate with IWA and Kumo, aiming to unite these villages along with smaller ones. In the ensuing war, we will take the lead. Kakuzu, hearing this, interrupted impatiently, "What does this have to do with me? I'd rather use this time to complete a few more bounties." "Your share from the ninja villages hiring us is 50%, Pain said. Kakuzu fell silent, calculating in his mind. His attitude changed and he said, "When the time comes, boss, remember to inform me of the arrangements." Pain continued, "After losing their Tsuchikage and Reikage, IWA and Kumo have lost dominance. Our reputation from the last war ensures they will choose our plan. Kakuzu, you go to IWA, Kisame, you go to Kumo." Other targets for Nagato included Kusa, Taki, the Land of Iron and Odo. After learning Konoha planned to merge with the Sand Federation, Nagato realized Akatsuki alone could not challenge them. Even Tsunade could counter his Rinnegan. Without alliances, no single faction could resist Konoha and the Sand Federation. Only by uniting all remaining forces could they oppose them. Nagato decided to abandon Hidden Mist for now. According to Zetsu, Pakura, after defeating Kumo and Mist forces at sea, intended to eliminate the Land of Water next. Without support from the 6 Paths of Pain, the Land of Water was doomed. Exposing intentions too early was unnecessary. After the meeting, Conan approached Nagato privately, concern showing on her face. Nagato, do we really have to oppose the Sand Federation? Nagato replied coldly, Conan, we've come this far, only one step remains to fulfill Yahiko's dream. Conan fell silent, exhaling deeply. I understand. I'm just worried about the civilians of the Land of Rain. If they find out, they will likely resist. Conan had been preoccupied with internal development in the Land of Rain. She knew how prosperity was built, selling crops, employment via the Keiko Trade Association, and supply of entertainment goods. Keiko even built 3 medical centers for civilians. The land had almost no poor, and those able-bodied who wanted to earn a living had opportunities. If Nagato opposed the Sand Federation, she feared civilian rebellion. Lord Kazekage. Uchiha Tetsuka called from outside, and was granted entry by Pakura. At the coastal port of Sasha County, the Sand Federation ninjas rested after battle and resupplied. Inside, Tetsuka saw people photographing Pakura. They lit up upon seeing him. Lord Kazekage, is this Uchiha Tetsuka, said to wield the power of the gods? May we interview him? Pakura glanced at Tetsuka. Tetsuka, these are Federation reporters. They want an interview. What do you think? Tetsuka, pleased by their admiration, said, sure. After reporting to you, I'll have some free time. The interview schedule was set, and the reporters left. Tetsuka then reported to Pakura. The pursuit teams for the Ninja Coalition returned about 50 kilometers from the Land of Water. The number captured is unsatisfactory. Many escaped at sea. Only a little over 1,000 were captured. Aside from the hundreds who died, most Kumo and Mist ninjas escaped, especially Mist, where combined jutsu made capture difficult. Of the 1,000 captured, 70% were Kumo, mostly by aerial units. That's enough. Assign some to guard duty, and prepare to attack the Land of Water. Pakura considered delegating credit for the conquest to Tetsuka, if she retired as Kazekage. Tetsuka, you'll command this operation. Tetsuka, shocked, protested, no, Lord Kazekage, you should command. I lack the ability to lead such a large war. Don't be modest, I have confidence in you. I can't handle it. Lord Kazekage should command. If there's nothing else, I'll leave. He left immediately, frowning, wondering why Pakura seemed to favor him. Was it because his performance outshone her authority in the last war? He resolved to be more cautious, to avoid drawing attention to the Uchiha's position in the Federation. Damn it, Hyuga Mirai even took my sake. Tsunade, thrown from Yamatsu Hirasaka by Hyuga Mirai, was angry. She noticed a gaze on her and turned, finding Orochimaru peeking from behind a stack of documents. Ah, it's you, Orochimaru. I've expanded my view in the Sand Federation, and asked Hyuga Mirai to return me because I was thinking about Konoha. Feeling Orochimaru's piercing gaze, Tsunade changed the topic. Orochimaru, how is Konoha doing? Orochimaru sighed, adjusting his glasses. Shikaku has departed to the border to persuade the stationed ninja to return. Konoha's ninjas are reorganizing, starting from southern towns, though intelligence is incomplete. No worries, I've assigned someone to handle that. Tsunade assured. She then asked aloud, by the way, Orochimaru, do you want to be Hokage? End of chapter. Chapter 363, Chapter 363 Post. 1,283 words. Who goes there? Captain Shikaku. The Konoha shinobi stationed at the Land of Grass border outpost were surprised when they saw Nara Shikaku approaching. They still confirmed his identity, exchanged the proper code, and only then allowed him near. If someone had been impersonating him, it would have spelled disaster for the entire outpost. Captain Shikaku, why did you come personally? The Jonin squad leader of the outpost asked. As the leader of a Jonin team, Shikaku had gone to war not long ago. Why had he suddenly appeared at the border outpost? Without the correct code and personal confirmation, the squad leader would have thought he was an imposter. There have been changes in the village. I'm here to inform you. Shikaku briefly explained Konoha's recent changes and the next steps, then produced the Hokage office orders and Tsunade's signature. Pack your things and return to the village as soon as possible. Tell all comrades to return immediately. There will be plenty of missions once you're back. Konoha was no longer the old military force protecting the Land of Fire. It was becoming an enforcer for the Federation. The Land of Fire had many nobles, but those who committed too many atrocities or violated federal law would likely have their assets seized and be exiled to labor in the southwestern mines. In the past, the daimyo turned a blind eye, and the feudal system allowed nobles to act like miniature rulers on their own land. Even if Konoha shinobi saw injustice, they couldn't intervene. If they acted on impulse and were reported afterward, they would be reprimanded, or even punished if they lacked backing. Daimyo and nobles across nations had taken centuries to turn shinobi into tools, and today the Sand Federation had overturned that power. According to the plan, the Federation would provide intelligence, while Konoha shinobi would be responsible for arrests. Konoha's administrative staff would also be reassigned to various places as officials, supplemented by Federation personnel if necessary. Shikaku didn't know how the Federation obtained such detailed information on the Fire Country nobles. He could only guess it was related to the Uzumaki Trade Association, the Hayakusa Trade Association, and the Keiko Trade Association. Only those three had members in every town. Ever since learning that Hayakusa was also a Federation-backed association, Shikaku no longer opposed the merger. If anyone voiced objections now, he would be among the first to refute them. The Nara clan's most important business was medicinal herbs, and Hayakusa was their largest buyer. The other herb traders had long been crushed. If the Nara clan refused to cooperate, their entire business would collapse overnight, then even feeding the average clan member would become difficult. They might all end up working labor jobs. Aside from Shikaku, the three police clans were also preparing to mobilize their entire forces. Beyond guarding Konoha and watching over the Sarutobi and other clans under supervision, they assembled 600 members to apprehend evil nobles according to the first regional list organized by Yakushi Kabuto. Hyuga Takuma tried persuading Kiyo Hyuga not to take the field personally, saying this small matter didn't require the clan head's direct involvement. But Kiyo did not listen. If she didn't set a strict, decisive example, others might hesitate. Then how long would unifying the Land of Fire take? She was already 27. Was she supposed to wait another year or two? Impossible. Kiyo Hyuga requested the mission directly from Tsunade and received approval. She also applied for an external assignment for Kurenai Yuhi. Without students to teach, Kurenai had far more free time, and Kiyo hadn't forgotten her near defection. After Kiyo and the reluctant Kurenai left the village, Tsunade grew increasingly frustrated with the growing piles of paperwork. These documents are even worse than when I was Hokage. Tsunade scratched her blonde hair. Only a fool would choose to be Hokage. How had she let that brat Hyuga Mirai talk her into it? Whatever. Shadow clone technique. She immediately created a shadow clone to handle everything. When she was Hokage, she avoided using shadow clones for official duties, but she couldn't stand this endless paperwork anymore. She wanted freedom. She shouldn't be trapped in this tiny office. She was about to go grab a drink when a shadow clone. Tsunade-sama, you should have been doing that long ago. The Fire Country capital needs someone of status to handle affairs. There are many mid- and low-level clerks there already. Since you're using shadow clones, you can assign the capital to one of them. Kabuto stepped inside, saw the clone, smiled, and shoved the files he held into its hands. The personnel have been arranged. My suggestions are at the end of the report. Personally, I think Tsunade-sama can be a little more forceful in this matter. Kabuto. Yes. Tsunade-sama, is something wrong? Kabuto lowered his head slightly and pushed up his glasses. Sunlight glinted off the lenses. It's nothing. She had just tried to sneak out and been caught. Her proud desire for freedom deflated instantly. She waved her hand and ordered the clone to head out. Tsunade-sama, aside from the capital, 2 more places need someone to take charge, but the village simply has no more available personnel. Kabuto spoke as he drew 2 itinerary files from inside his robe and placed them on her desk. The Land of Fire had more than just its capital. As the wealthiest nation aside from the Sand Federation, several other towns had to be secured quickly. Kabuto's selected towns held major resource deposits that Konoha needed to seize before news spread. Tsunade felt hopeless, but when she looked at Kabuto's squinting smile, she still agreed. I understand, Kabuto. Shadow clone technique. Tsunade's clones could last 5 or 6 days without issue, and they weren't just ceremonial, they had to get the work done properly. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. Please endure just a little longer. The Sand Federation promised to send people within a month to discuss the merger. Things will get easier afterwards. Kabuto was lying. Tsunade's workload would only increase. But he needed to keep her calm, otherwise she might abandon everything. If Konoha's original workload was a 1, the current workload was a 3. Soon it might rise to 7, or even 10. Tsunade had already asked Kabuto to coordinate with the Uzumaki Trade Association to install a new administrative system in Konoha. With Unit 18 assisting, the Hokage's burden would ease slightly. But full installation would take time. The Sand Federation was also busy, but thanks to its education system, its shortage of civil personnel had eased over the last 2 years. Even with nearly 5,000 new prisoners and more from the battlefield, the Federation could process them quickly. At worst, the administrative staff would be busy for a while. Regarding the upcoming merger between the Federation and Konoha, they held many meetings, treating the matter seriously. One of the 5 great villages was about to join the Federation, unifying the ninja world was not far off. Thus, Hyuga Mirai's marriage plans were also treated as a major national issue. The officials didn't understand Tsunade and Mirai's relationship. They only believed that if the academy principal married Kiyo Hyuga and Kurina Yuhi, it would be an ideal gesture of goodwill to ease any lingering hostility among Federation shinobi toward Konoha. The matter had already been elevated to a state issue. Mirai was essentially recognized as the next Kazekage after Pakura. With the backing of the Uzumaki, Hayakusa, and Keiko associations, plus his positions as academy principal and minister of education. No one wanted to compete with him. Anyone who did would be talked out of it by their own friends. End of chapter. Chapter 364, Chapter 364. 1,287 words. Edo Tensei. Only after repeatedly confirming the control talismans did Obito Uchiha use the technique. As the hand seals were completed, the sacrifices before him were wrapped in fragments of paper and slowly transformed into 2 figures, the third Reikage and the second Reikage. After successfully reviving them, Obito immediately implanted control talismans into their minds and tested the effect. Where is this? Didn't I die at the hands of Kinkaku and Ginkaku? After regaining consciousness, the second Reikage scanned his surroundings. When he tried to activate lightning release chakra mode, he found he couldn't gather chakra or move at all. Second Sama, didn't you die? I died too, so how are we alive again? The third Reikage frowned, then looked at Obito and asked coldly, Kid, did you revive us? This should be the second Hokage's Edo Tensei, the second Reikage said. Looks like he's the one who revived us. Bang. Before he could finish, the second Reikage clenched his fist and attacked the third Reikage. The third Reikage punched back. Their fists collided, crackling with lightning, and the shockwave flipped a table 10 meters away. Damn it, my body isn't under my control. The second Reikage struggled to regain control, but it was futile. Seeing this, Obito nodded in satisfaction and continued forming seals. Looks like the control talismans work fine. Next, I'll prepare more Edo bodies. As he finished, coffins rose behind the 2 Reikage, sealed them inside, and sank underground. After that, Obito prepared Edo bodies for the second Tsuchikage, second Mizukage, and second Hokage. This time he didn't test them, directly implanting the talismans. With help from white Zetsu clones, collecting tissue samples was easy. Among the first Kage, only Senju Hashirama still had preserved tissue, the others had long turned to ash. Next are Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Obito turned and took 2 specially prepared white Zetsu. The other Kage used slightly enhanced clones capable of near-living strength, but for Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, he cultivated fused clones, each made from 4 white Zetsu merged together. The stronger the sacrifice, the closer the revived power was to life. Madara and Hashirama were closest to the Sage of 6 Paths in their time, so Obito prepared the strongest sacrifices for them. Obito's research on Hashirama cells was limited. With help from Tobi and the white Zetsu main body, he barely managed to create 2 4-clone fusion sacrifices. These were the best he could prepare. However, Obito didn't fully understand Edo Tensei. During their deal, Danzo had deliberately concealed a crucial fact: anyone proficient in Edo Tensei could potentially break the caster's control. Obito was unaware of this flaw. Danzo had intentionally hidden it. Edo Tensei. Paper fragments wrapped the special white Zetsu sacrifices and gradually formed 2 figures. Seconds later, Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama appeared before Obito. Next, I just need to implant the talism. Before he could finish, Senju Hashirama suddenly opened his eyes and threw a fierce punch at Obito. Boom! The punch passed through Obito's body and slammed into the ground, blasting a crater 20 to 30 meters wide. Cracks spread across the underground cavern walls as rocks and dust fell, threatening collapse. Obito's heart tightened. He quickly tried to assert control with Edo Tensei, but found he had lost control over both Madara and Hashirama. Space-time ninjutsu. It didn't feel like I hit anything. My body passed straight through yours. Such a technique exists now. Hashirama's voice emerged from the dust. Before Obito could react, another familiar voice sounded behind him. That's the Mangekyo's ocular technique, Hashirama. Madara walked up beside Obito, displeased as he examined his cracked body. Though revived in his youthful form thanks to the sacrifice, the Edo body felt numb, stiff, and devoid of sensation. Why is it Edo Tensei? Where's Nagato? Why wasn't Rinne Tensei used as planned? After speaking, Madara glanced at Obito with his Sharingan and continued, "Don't think you can control Hashirama and me with Edo Tensei. This level of restraint is meaningless to me. Before learning forbidden techniques, didn't you consider how dangerous they are?" Madara's right. I thought the one summoning me this time was that person, so I attacked instinctively. Good thing you dodged. Ha ha. Hashirama recalled his past miserable experiences. Feeling no restraints after revival, he struck instinctively. If Madara had been standing there, he would have been sent flying. There's been a change in the plan, Madara. The shinobi world is close to being swallowed by a nation called the Sand Federation. I revived you to strengthen our forces. Obito explained the situation. With Hashirama present, he avoided mentioning the Eye of the Moon plan, but Madara could already guess it wasn't going smoothly. Madara, what's the plan? And you also received the sages. Shut up, Hashirama. Madara snapped coldly. If he didn't stop him, Hashirama would blurt everything out. All right, fine. Hashirama obediently stepped aside. Obito knew this wasn't the time for details. He selectively explained, emphasizing Konoha's imminent destruction and its absorption into another power. The words made Hashirama fall silent before asking, "What did you say?" Konoha is gone, and it joined a nation called the Sand Federation. That's right, first Hokage. The one executing this plan is your granddaughter Tsunade. She severely injured her teacher Hiruzen Sarutobi, led Konoha into the Sand Federation, and sold over 1,000 Konoha shinobi who might oppose her decision during the war. Hashirama frowned slightly. I don't believe Tsunade would do that. Her love for Konoha is second to none. If you don't believe it, go find out yourself, Obito said. Konoha is nearly gone anyway. I would have checked regardless, Hashirama replied. Madara, let's discuss that matter after I return. And don't go looking for Hyuga Mirai alone. That guy is terrifying. Thinking of endless days of farming, Hashirama shuddered. That fear was why he attacked the moment he felt unrestrained. That kind of life was true hell. Would release, deep forest emergence. Hashirama knew he was in an underground cavern sealed by Obito. To get out, he had to break through with would release. Damn it, Hashirama. Madara cursed as the cavern collapsed. He had to activate Susanoo to avoid being buried alive. Shortly after Hashirama left, a blue Susanoo emerged from underground. Once on the surface, Madara dispelled it. Obito used Kamui to appear beside Madara. With Hashirama gone, they could finally discuss the Eye of the Moon plan. Where's Nagato? Madara asked. He's still with Akatsuki, Obito replied. He plans to unite Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and several smaller villages against the Sand Federation. The first Hokage was right about one thing: Hyuga Mirai is hard to deal with. Born from the Hyuga branch family, freed from the caged bird, awakened an ocular power beyond the Byakugan, gained Tsunade's would release and sage arts, and even repelled Nagato's Rinnegan with would release. Akatsuki had already collected 6-tailed beasts, but progress stalled because White Zetsu couldn't find the 3 tails. He's capable, Madara said calmly. But once I'm fully revived, no one will be able to stop me. He didn't find Hyuga Mirai particularly troublesome, nor did he plan to follow the so-called Sage of Six Paths method. He would never team up with Hashirama. He trusted only himself. Hashirama might not fall for Obito's manipulation, so the sage's power on him wasn't worth preserving. Once revived, Madara would take it himself. Have White Zetsu and Black Zetsu come find me. Madara ordered the White Zetsu clone, then headed for the Land of Rain as Obito described. Though the revival plan had a small mishap, Madara found it more interesting. There was still room to salvage the Eye of the Moon plan, such as the so-called Otsutsuki. End of chapter. Chapter 365, Chapter 366. 1945 words. The ninja world's planet is relatively large. The 5 great nations and the surrounding smaller countries occupy less than 1/10 of its total area, leaving many regions still undeveloped. However, the divine tree can no longer be planted. This planet's energy likely cannot withstand another planting. Kaguya planted it once, Ishiki planted it once, and Hyuga Mirai also drained the dragon vein's energy. Ordinary ninjas might not sense it, but someone like Hyuga Mirai, whose strength has reached the 6 paths level and who controls Kekkei Mora, can perceive it clearly. 3 plantings of the divine tree are already this planet's limit. If it were planted again, the planet would likely become a dead world, no longer suitable for life. Hyuga Mirai would eventually embark on an interstellar plan as well. For now, he had only evolved his life level once. There was still vast room for further evolution, including for the people around him. Mirai-sama. Ayaka Uzumaki gently opened the door and peeked her head in, checking whether Hyuga Mirai was busy. Hyuga Mirai shut down the holographic projection and said toward the doorway, "Come in, Ayaka." Seeing Ayaka Uzumaki tiptoe inside and then sit down with a puffed-up face, Hyuga Mirai asked before she could speak, "Did you get wronged outside?" This was Kushina's idea, wasn't it? The grievance Ayaka had put on her face instantly fell apart, but she still complained to Hyuga Mirai, saying, "It's the Federation newspaper. Those people are really too much. I'm also Mirai-sama's fiancé, but they barely mentioned me." After saying that, Ayaka Uzumaki took out a newspaper, which Hyuga Mirai accepted and read. The front page promoted the progress of the merger between the Sand Federation and Konoha. Recently, due to the union of the two sides, each issue had to devote the first 3 pages to publicity. This was a mandatory political task. The front page itself had no issues. Tsunade and Pakura each occupied half the space with their achievements. Hyuga Mirai then flipped to the next page, and after reading it, he understood where Ayaka Uzumaki's grievance came from. The Federation's newspaper staff were too rigid. They devoted large sections to Kiyo Hyuga and Kurina Yuhi, and even fabricated a story about the three of them based on circulating anecdotes. Hyuga Mirai found it quite interesting to see himself as the protagonist for the first time. Only after finishing did he notice, in the final paragraph, a single sentence about Ayaka Uzumaki. There was still no name. She was referred to as a woman of the Federation, supposedly contributing to the Sand Federation-Konoha merger. After putting the newspaper down, Hyuga Mirai said seriously to Ayaka Uzumaki, "These people are really incompetent. I'll notify Maki and have all the newspaper staff replaced." Hearing how much Hyuga Mirai cared about her, the unhappiness in Ayaka's heart instantly vanished. In truth, she only wanted to use this as an excuse to spend more time with him, not to make things difficult for the newspaper staff. She quickly said, "No need, Mirai-sama. It's just a newspaper, after all." Hyuga Mirai knew she would answer like that. After placing the newspaper on the table, he still said solemnly, "Even if you plead for them, they still need to be reprimanded to improve their professionalism. You're the one who's been by my side the most. If there's someone I like the most, it should be you. Newspaper writers can't just make things up." Upon hearing this, Ayaka's heart was instantly filled with joy, and all of Kushina's advice was thrown to the back of her mind. It's fine, Mirai-sama. They're doing it for the Federation too," Ayaka Uzumaki said with a flushed face. Even though the wedding was approaching, hearing those words still made her heart race wildly. After waiting so many years, Ayaka felt her life was complete. She was filled with happiness from head to toe, and this joy even made the nine tails inside her feel uncomfortable. In the past, it was usually the tailed beast's negative emotions affecting the Jinchuriki, but now it seemed reversed. The nine tails felt its own negative emotions within its chakra being eroded by the Jinchuriki's happiness and contentment. Humph, such boring human emotions. The nine tails snorted, then lay down and drooped its ears. Its treatment was a bit better than before, its actions were no longer sealed by adamantine chains. However, Ayaka Uzumaki could still block its perception of the outside world at any time, though she usually allowed it to observe what was happening outside. "Oh right, Ayaka. From what I heard you discussing last time, I still think a Chipao suits you better." Hearing this, Ayaka Uzumaki immediately nodded vigorously and said, "I think so too. I'll go tell Kushina right away." Before Hyuga Mirai could say anything else, Ayaka Uzumaki happily skipped away like a little deer. Balancing three people is even harder to control than balancing three kinds of energy. It's harder than senjutsu. After thinking for a moment, Hyuga Mirai called up the holographic projection again and contemplated future planetary development. His plan was to initiate the interstellar project in 20 years. While it would be impossible for everyone to enter an age of interstellar migration, they at least needed the capability for large-scale cosmic exploration and deployment of forward outposts. After all, chakra fruits need to be planted on planets suitable for nurturing life in order to grow. As for analysis of the 10 tails and its growth and maturation process, number 18 had been working on it continuously, though progress was relatively slow. Konoha. After rushing back, Senja Hashirama found that Konoha had indeed changed significantly. Its area had expanded considerably, and ninjas were constantly returning from outside, as if missions were being carried out every second. With Hashirama's keen perception, it was not hard to tell that most Konoha ninjas had returned from missions involving killing. The aura of slaughter and bloodshed had yet to dissipate from them. Little Tsuna really became the 5th Hokage. She didn't bankrupt the village, did she? Seeing the faces carved on the Hokage rock, Senja Hashirama thought worriedly. The 4th youthful statue should be the 4th Hokage, someone he did not recognize, but he recognized his granddaughter's statue at a glance. At Konoha's gate, a small squad of ninjas was checking those entering and leaving. Hashirama felt a bit troubled. He did not want to alarm others by appearing as a dead man, and he also wanted to see whether Konoha's current state matched what the masked man had said. However, the inspections at the gate were extremely strict. Even ordinary civilians were checked thoroughly, and there were sensory-type ninjas present. I'll try going underground. I remember Mito's sensory barrier can't extend very deep underground. Hashirama scratched his head, then directly used would release to burrow underground and head into Konoha. Compared to Earth release, which causes chakra fluctuations when moving underground, would release was extremely well concealed. By relying on branches growing and extending through the soil, once 10 meters deep, no one could detect it. After successfully entering Konoha, Hashirama headed toward the village interior. The village gate defenses were tight, but security inside was looser. Many members of ANBU, Root, and the police force had been pulled away by Kabuto Yakushi to carry out cleanup missions. All corrupt and incompetent noble trash were beheaded and had their properties confiscated. The rest were escorted to Kawasuna district and handed over to the Sand Federation. The more manpower available, the greater the benefit for future Federation development. Even if they were just moving bricks, the Federation would make them exert their full strength. After entering the village, Hashirama did not immediately seek out Tsunade. Instead, he went to places like izakayas, dessert shops, and ramen stalls to gather information. Ninjas returning from missions would more or less talk about their experiences. Moreover, since the merger with the Sand Federation had been clearly decided, these missions were no longer confidential matters. Killing, escort missions, and discussions about merging into the Sand Federation, listening to these made Hashirama feel that the current Konoha was very different from what he had imagined. Afterward, Hashirama headed toward the Hokage building. After Danzo blew it up, Konoha quickly rebuilt it before Tsunade returned. It was still the center for handling administrative affairs. Arriving near the Hokage building, Hashirama looked through a window and saw Tsunade buried in a pile of documents, writing furiously as she handled Konoha's affairs. After watching for a while, he could not help but smile in relief and said, "Little Tsuna has grown up. It looks like she's fully taken on the responsibility of Hokage." Then he directly jumped onto the wall of the Hokage building and walked along it to the window of Tsunade's office. He had no intention of hiding. If he still had to sneak around his own granddaughter, what would that be? He wasn't foolish enough to trust an outsider over his own granddaughter. Before Hashirama could knock, Tsunade opened the window first, stuck her head out, and loudly said, violating the Hokage's orders, "Now come in and help me handle things, Grandpa." Although his face bore cracks, it was unmistakably her grandfather's appearance. Being caught climbing the wall, Hashirama scratched his head in embarrassment and smiled. "Little Tsuna, long time no see. Grandpa, were you brought back with Edo Tensei? Who did this? Did they not control you? What exactly happened? Was it Danzo who revived you? Were you the only one or?" Tsunade was on guard, but seeing that her grandfather showed no signs of attacking, and did not seem like a puppet with his mind suppressed, she stepped aside and let him in to talk. After Hashirama entered, he looked around and sighed. "I didn't expect the Hokage building to change this much. Back in my time, the office was much smaller. If it were any smaller, it wouldn't even be able to hold all these documents." Tsunade's mood immediately sank as she pointed at the small mountains of files piled on the desk and floor, complaining to Hashirama. "By the way, Grandpa, who used Edo Tensei on you? Didn't they control you? What exactly happened? Was it Danzo who revived you? Was it only you or?" Stop, little Tsuna. Too many questions. One at a time." Hashirama quickly waved his hands to stop her and sighed. Honestly, this time being brought back was rather baffling. First, I was in the Pure Land when. Tsunade-sama, this is the report on the recapture of Tanzaku town. Before Hashirama could finish, someone pushed the door open. It was Kabuto Yakushi, holding a stack of documents. Upon entering, Kabuto immediately saw Senja Hashirama. His first reaction was that Tsunade-sama was trying to escape again, and this time, had come up with a new trick, using a shadow clone transformed into the first Hokage to fool him. How naive. After placing the documents down, Kabuto adjusted his glasses, slowly stepped closer, and asked Tsunade-sama, "Is this the first Hokage?" Tsunade sighed and introduced him to Kabuto. "That's right. This is my grandfather, the first Hokage. Due to some accident, he was brought back with Edo Tensei." Before she could finish, Kabuto suddenly used a chakra scalpel and placed it against her grandfather's arm. "Kabuto, what are you doing?" Tsunade asked, raising an eyebrow in confusion. "Not a shadow clone." Kabuto laughed awkwardly, then scratched his head and explained, "I thought this was Tsunade-sama's shadow clone, so I wanted to test it." After all, Tsunade had a long list of prior offenses. She had used all kinds of excuses just to take leave. End of chapter. Chapter 366, Chapter 365. 1,336 words. Uchiha Madara never expected to meet the legendary sage of six paths after death. It surprised him slightly, but after hearing the secrets of the 10 tales from the sage, he realized that the so-called Eye of the Moon plan was likely not left behind by the sage at all. The stone tablet at the Uchiha clan grounds had been tampered with, and Black Zetsu, whom he himself created, was a being passed down since the sage's era. It was probably connected to the legendary rabbit goddess Otsutsuki Kagaya. This is getting more and more interesting. If the old Eye of the Moon plan can't be realized, then I'll replace it with a new one. Otsutsuki. Thinking this, Madara felt a surge of excitement, but his Edo Tensei body prevented him from feeling true passion. "I need to be revived as soon as possible." After Madara left, Obito Uchiha clenched his fist in anger. He never expected Edo Tensei to fail so badly. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara both broke free of the technique, and the sacrifices he prepared were the best White Zetsu clones. Now both could wield power close to their peak in life. And that so-called six paths Hashirama mentioned, what is it? Six paths techniques, or the sage of six paths himself? Obito thought for a while, but with too little information, he couldn't draw conclusions. Worse still, after Madara's revival, White Zetsu and Tobi would no longer obey him. He failed to eliminate all hidden dangers beforehand, and now it was too late. Fortunately, I still have some Edo bodies. Edo Tensei and Kamui were likely his final trump cards, and he had to expand them. Obito didn't want to be Madara's pawn or subordinate. He had his own goals and didn't trust Madara. "Kakashi, you've borrowed my Sharingan for long enough. It's time to give it back." With that, Obito used Kamui and left. The underground cavern had already been destroyed by Hashirama, and nothing of value remained. The Sand Federation was now in a period of intense transformation. The merger with Konoha was ordered by both sides Kage, so high-level exchanges were frequent. Iwagakure and Kumogakure had suffered severe losses, and their Kage had been captured. No matter how much the daimyo of the Land of Earth and Land of Lightning urged them, neither village intended to deploy troops. They had intelligence from Konoha. The Hokage who possessed would release was still there, and Konoha was the traitor within the four-nation alliance. Unlike Iwagakure and Kumogakure, Konoha hadn't suffered such losses. Starting a war rashly would only hurt themselves. The newly appointed acting Kage of both villages weren't that foolish. They drove away the daimyo's envoys and jointly threatened that if funding was cut, they couldn't guarantee what extremist ninja might do. Kumogakure's aggressiveness was tradition. This time they had lost nearly 3,000 ninja. Without massive funding, recovery was impossible. The new acting Raikage was a veteran jonin. He knew funding was crucial, so he openly threatened the daimyo's envoys. Even heavily weakened, Kumogakure still had over 4,000 ninja. As the village famous for military buildup, even mostly genin were enough to make the Land of Lightning wary. Iwagakure was similar. The acting Tsuchikage was Inoki's granddaughter Kuratsuchi. Though weaker, she still had jonin-level strength, and her temper was far worse than Inoki's. During negotiations, she nearly killed the daimyo's envoy with a punch. She declared outright that if funding wasn't provided, Iwagakure wouldn't let the daimyo's government off easily. The four-nation allied army had been orchestrated by the daimyo. With such heavy losses, Iwagakure and Kumogakure were furious. Yet the daimyo still demanded immediate deployment. Kuratsuchi not storming the land of Earth's capital with Earth-style detachment of the primitive world was only because the elders stopped her. "Kuratsuchi, someone wants to see you," an Iwagakure elder said as he entered. Her face fell. Another daimyo envoy. They really? It's not from the daimyo. It's Akatsuki from the land of rain. Before he finished, Kuratsuchi stood up angrily. What did you say? Akatsuki. Hearing Akatsuki made her think of Katsuchi, who stayed behind on the rain battlefield. She had two enemies in her heart, Konoha and Akatsuki. Kuratsuchi, Akatsuki is here to propose an alliance. They also feel pressure from Konoha and the Sand Federation, so I refuse. The land of rain and Iwagakure have irreconcilable hatred. If we ally with them, what will the villagers who lost family in the Fourth Shinobi World War think? What will our ninja think? The elder frowned. Then can you handle Konoha and the Sand Federation? If no one can stop a Hokage with wood release, how will Iwagakure resist their expansion? This left Kuratsuchi speechless. Iwagakure was at rock bottom. Even unlimited funding would take 10 years to recover. Her grandfather Inoki had been captured, and the village had lost its Kekkei Toda legacy. If the Sand Federation and Konoha moved against them after merging, Iwagakure would truly face destruction. Seeing her silent, the elder continued, to stop them, we must rely on Akatsuki. Not just us, they've contacted Kusagakure, Takigakure, Otogakure, and Kumogakure. Only by uniting all villages, plus the power of Akatsuki's leaders Rinnegan, can we protect Iwagakure from being swallowed. After a long silence, Kuratsuchi finally sighed. I understand. For Iwagakure's sake, I'll suppress my hatred. Let them in to discuss the alliance. She saw no other way to save the village. Even with deep hatred toward Akatsuki, she had to endure it. Konoha and the Sand Federation loomed like a mountain over Iwagakure. Konoha was clearing Fire Country nobles and consolidating territory. Once that was done, their next targets would likely be Iwagakure or Kumogakure. Alliance with Akatsuki was inevitable for both villages. They had no other choice. Faced with an organization that had once confronted and even injured the fifth Hokage head-on, neither village would refuse. The movements of Iwagakure and Kumogakure couldn't escape the Sand Federation's notice. After discussions, the Federation leadership reported the situation to Pakura, but she sent it back, instructing them to consult Hyuga Mirai. That signal was almost equivalent to declaring Hyuga Mirai the next Kazekage. The leadership went directly to the Federation Academy office. Many figures whose status rivaled the Minister of Education, and the Academy principal came personally to report. After hearing this, Hyuga Mirai chuckled. Pakura's methods were still too crude. The Kazekage position wasn't hers to hand over. Still, he issued instructions, ignore Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and the Land of Rain for now. The Federation's focus was on merging with Konoha and occupying the Land of Water. These two tasks consumed most of its energy. Only after Pakura returned from the Land of Water could they deploy a Kazekage-led army against Iwagakure or Kumogakure. As the leaders prepared to leave, one added, by the way, Mirai-sama, Konoha reported that they're close to finishing the cleanup of 2 districts near Kikyo Castle. They need the Federation to dispatch some civil officials. Doesn't the administration department have a plan? Mirai asked. There's no one left to send. Even the recently graduated reserve officials have all been deployed. Then reassign deputy officials from other districts. Also send people to Konoha. If there are ninja there who have memorized Federation administrative codes and laws, promote them on the spot. Personnel shortages were a real issue. For now, they could only build the administrative framework and replace noble governance with the Federation system. After the meeting, Mirai's clone retrieved the original plans from the Federation Ninja Academy's founding, revised them, and sent them to Konoha. His clones worked non-stop, but the real body rested comfortably at home. Aside from occasionally checking on Ayaka, he studied the Ninja World planetary map constructed by Unit 18. The satellites he launched orbited the planet several times, collecting all surface data and partial data down to about 50 meters underground and underwater. Using this, Unit 18 created a holographic projection for Mirai to observe and analyze. End of chapter. Chapter 367, Chapter 367. 1,398 words. Why was the first Hokage revived with Edo Tensei? Kabuto Yakushi asked curiously. Danzo was already dead, so in the ninja world, the ones capable of Edo Tensei should only be Orochimaru and Mirai. Could it be one of them? I was just about to ask when you came in, and you even suspected me of trying to escape. Tsunade's eyebrow twitched. Kabuto had made her completely lose her authority in front of her grandfather. Later, he would have to help her handle 2 days' worth of Hokage duties to make up for it. That person should be a companion of Uchiha Madara. Senju Hashirama said with a frown as he recalled the memory. Then he suddenly realized he had left too hastily and slapped himself hard. Right, that person was Madara's accomplice. I forgot about Madara. Now the two of them should be hiding somewhere. Uchiha Madara. Grandpa, it wasn't just you who was revived, Madara was revived too. Tsunade frowned slightly as she asked. Why would her grandfather and Uchiha Madara be revived together? Just thinking about it made her sense a huge conspiracy. Damn it, she hated thinking about these things the most. Grandpa, wait a moment. I'll call someone over first. When he arrives, you can explain everything properly. Tsunade then sent a message to Hyuga Mirai through the terminal on her ring. Urgent matter, come quickly. Afraid that Mirai might not grasp the seriousness, she added 3 danger warnings afterward. Senju Hashirama frowned slightly and asked, Tsunade, you're not calling Hyuga Mirai, are you? Grandpa, you know him too. Tsunade looked surprised, then nodded firmly. Yes, it's him. Konoha is about to merge with the Sand Federation. I'll explain the current situation of the ninja world to you later. Maybe your wish will be fulfilled by him. Little Tsuna, that brat. Before Senju Hashirama could finish, a pitch-black spatial passage appeared in the room, and Hyuga Mirai stepped out of it. What is it, Tsunade? You even used 3 danger warnings. If you tricked me. Mirai stopped halfway through his sentence when he suddenly noticed Senju Hashirama in the room, revived through Edo Tensei. Did that bastard Danzo even Edo Tensei the first Hokage? Hyuga Mirai immediately thought of Danzo. Seeing Senju Hashirama about to point at him and speak, Mirai quickly reached out, grabbed Hashirama's hand and said. First Hokage. The god of shinobi who pacified the warring states, I admire you the most. You. Tsunade, you called me because of the first Hokage, right? You should have told me earlier. It's a pity the first Hokage has an Edo Tensei body, otherwise I would definitely invite him to have a proper drink. Seeing Hashirama still trying to speak, Mirai simply condensed a truth-seeking ball in his hand, and directly submerged it into Hashirama's body, controlling his movements. Mirai's truth-seeking balls were completely different from the black rods created by the Rinnegan. In terms of binding power, they were at least 10 times stronger. Even a sage body could not withstand them, let alone an Edo Tensei body. There are important things to discuss. Also, why are you acting so strange today? Tsunade said to Mirai, signaling him not to mess around, and to let her grandfather finish speaking. In such a short time, Mirai had already used the truth-seeking ball to convey his relationship with Tsunade to Hashirama, explaining the pros and cons. After that, he withdrew the truth-seeking ball. Mirai had thought he would never see Senju Hashirama again in this lifetime. Back then, For the rapid development of the Hayakusa Trade Association, he had Hashirama work as an old farmer for several years. Later, when Tsunade joined, Mirai was afraid she would see her great-uncle and second great-uncle being used like cattle, so he released the Edo Tensei. He never expected someone to revive Hashirama again. Mirai had even warned Orochimaru not to casually Edo Tensei Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama. This was probably the work of that bastard Danzo. Senju Hashirama glared at Mirai angrily. Although he did not expose what the brat had done to him just now, he would definitely bring it up to Tsunade when he got the chance. When I was first revived, I thought it was the Sage of Six Paths who brought me back, but later I realized it should have been a technique used by Madara's companion. Hashirama said slowly. After returning to the Pure Land from the ninja world, I met someone who claimed to be the Sage of Six Paths. He looked strange, not quite like an ordinary person. Two horns appeared on his head and his body. Grandpa, get to the point. Tsunade reminded him while biting her finger. If it were anyone else, she would have taught them the meaning of dying from talking too much. Seeing all three people in the room frowning at him, Hashirama quickly nodded and continued. That Sage of Six Paths told me some ancient matters, including the origin of chakra, the rabbit goddess, and the conflict between the Senju and the Uchiha. In the end, he entrusted me with something. Although I didn't see Uchiha Madara in the Pure Land, after revival, he should have been entrusted with the same task. At this point, Hashirama paused. This habit of stopping at critical moments made Tsunade extremely displeased. She clenched her fist slightly and said, "Grandpa, just say it directly. There are no outsiders here." When Tsunade was young, she had fought her grandfather before. At the time, Hashirama's luck at gambling was not great, but he could still easily beat 4-year-old Tsunade. Once, when Tsunade lost badly, she punched Hashirama in the stomach and knocked him flat on his rear. Hyuga Mirai spoke up for Hashirama. The Sage of Six Paths asked you and Uchiha Madara to seal me, didn't he? He probably told you that I'm now walking the same path as Otsutsuki Kagaya, trying to gather all chakra into myself. So you received some gifts from the Sage of Six Paths, and, after revival, planned to join forces with Uchiha Madara to seal me. What? Upon hearing this, Tsunade stared at Senju Hashirama in disbelief. Seeing that neither of them was joking, she directly warned Hashirama. Grandpa, don't go acting against him just because of someone's nonsense. Otherwise, I won't stand on your side. She then relaxed a little. She had seen some fragments of the future through Mangekyo techniques, and in those visions, Hyuga Mirai had not been sealed. So her grandfather should not make a move. Hashirama looked at Tsunade helplessly and said, "Little Tsuna, I'm your grandfather, yet you're standing on that brat's side. I'm doing this for peace. And you might have been deceived. I can't just watch you make a mistake." Tsunade said anxiously, her heart pounding. But the Sage of Six Paths had the Rinnegan. That can't be faked. The Rinnegan? I have that too. Grandpa, according to what you're saying, I'm the Sage of Six Paths. As she spoke, Tsunade's light brown pupils instantly turned into pale purple Rinnegan, concentric circles filled with powerful ocular chakra. The Rinnegan. Seeing Tsunade's eyes, Hashirama froze in place. He never expected the legendary sage's eyes to appear in his own granddaughter. The feeling they gave him was almost the same as the Rinnegan he had seen in the Pure Land. Little Tsuna, how did you get the Rinnegan? The Senju clan could never awaken the Rinnegan. According to what the Sage of Six Paths said in the Pure Land, only by combining Yin and Yang power could one transform into Six Paths chakra and awaken the legendary sage's eyes. He helped me awaken them. And not just the Rinnegan, would release and Sage mode too. I've mastered them all now, Grandpa. I even developed a very powerful technique. Tsunade said proudly to Hashirama. She had become very strong. Although much of it was thanks to Hyuga Mirai's help, she had also put in a lot of effort herself. Is that so? It seems even sages can be wrong sometimes. Hashirama looked at his granddaughter's heartfelt smile and her Rinnegan, then glanced at Hyuga Mirai. This didn't look like a youth trying to monopolize all power. It seemed the Sage of Six Paths had stayed in the Pure Land for too long, and no longer fully understood the living world. End of chapter. Chapter 368, Chapter 368. 1886 words. Why would the Sage of Six Paths target you? Tsunade asked in confusion. A figure who had been dead for thousands of years still wouldn't stay put in the Pure Land, instead using her grandfather, after his Edo Tensei resurrection to deal with Hyuga Mirai. Thinking of this, Tsunade gained no goodwill toward the legendary sage. Because of Mount Mayaboku's prophecy. Ever since Jiraiya, Mount Mayaboku has been picking fights with me. And that Sage of Six Paths guy is clearly from the Otsutsuki clan, yet he believes a toad's words. Either there's something wrong with his head, or it's because I cut off the reincarnation of his son's chakra. When Hyuga Mirai said this, he noticed the worry in Tsunade's eyes, smiled lightly, and continued. Relax. Why would a dead man who's been gone for years be able to deal with me? Even if he came personally, I wouldn't be afraid, let alone having the previous Indra and Azura come at me. After speaking, Hyuga Mirai released a portion of the power of the six paths within his body. A sage's robe appeared on him, 9 tomo patterns formed around the collar, his hair instantly turned snow-white, and a 9-tomo Rinne Sharingan emerged on his forehead. He had originally planned to explore the Pure Land after unifying the shinobi world, but now it seemed that once Uchiha Madara was dealt with, he could move that plan forward. Hyuga Mirai did not want a being who had lived for thousands of years constantly watching him, and he was also quite curious about the secrets of the Pure Land. There was an enormous difference between the Six Paths level and everything below it. After Hyuga Mirai released just a trace of Six Paths aura, both Tsunade and Senju Hashirama felt an oppressive pressure on the soul itself. Even with her Rinnegan active, Tsunade could not be compared to Six Paths Hyuga Mirai. The Sage of Six Paths probably made a mistake. Even if Madara and I joined forces, we likely wouldn't be his match. Senju Hashirama thought in shock. Hyuga Mirai's Six Paths mode did not display overwhelming chakra, yet it gave him immense pressure. Precisely because of her Rinnegan, Tsunade could sense how vast the ocular power contained within Hyuga Mirai's deep blue eyes was. If he did not restrain himself, merely meeting his gaze made her feel pressured, instinctively wanting to turn her head away. Yakushi Kabuto's legs were already trembling slightly. The strongest power he commanded was Sage Mode, but that insignificant Senjutsu chakra was like a drop in the ocean before Hyuga Mirai's strength, unable to stir even the slightest ripple. So this is Lord Mirai's true strength. No wonder Orochimaru-sama admires him the most. Whether wisdom or power, he already stands at the pinnacle of the shinobi world. Yakushi Kabuto was stunned. He had never seen Hyuga Mirai fight before, and thus did not fully understand his strength. Now, however, he clearly recognized it as an unattainable, towering existence. Tsunade turned her head and said to Hyuga Mirai, "Who's worried about you? I'm worried that the peace that's about to come will be ruined. If you really care about peace, then stop slacking off. No alcohol and no gambling for 3 years, and peace in the shinobi world will arrive," Hyuga Mirai bluntly exposed her. Yakushi Kabuto nodded vigorously at the side. The reason he still couldn't return to Orochimaru-sama was because Tsunade kept slacking off. Not long ago, she even wanted to hand the Hokage position to him. Everyone knew Konoha was about to merge with the Sand Federation. Whether the Hokage would even continue to exist afterward was uncertain. Tsunade-sama's move was clearly just to make him take the blame for a while. "You bastard." Tsunade immediately flushed with embarrassment and anger. Her grandfather was still here, yet he gave her no face at all. "First Hokage, what do you plan to do now?" Hyuga Mirai asked. He was not Otsutsuki Kagaya. Just the subordinates and enforcers around him were enough to send Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara back to the Pure Land, even if they truly revived. As for me, I plan to stay and watch for a while. If everything develops in a good direction, Then this won't be a place for me to remain, Senju Hashirama said after thinking for a moment, smiling. But listening to what little Tsunade said, even the sage of 6 paths can misjudge things. It seems I may need to return to the Pure Land sooner rather than later. Hearing this, a trace of reluctance appeared on Tsunade's face. She recalled the days when her grandfather secretly took her to casinos when she was young and said, "Grandfather, why don't you stay a little longer? That way you can really see Konoha properly." After Konoha merges into the Sand Federation, the village's name may disappear, but peace in the shinobi world and a stable, prosperous life for civilians will be fully realized. If her grandfather stayed, there would be one more Hokage to help process documents. And she could also use her grandfather's name to go to casinos and izakaya outside. At first, seeing the reluctance on Tsunade's face, Senju Hashirama sighed softly, satisfied that little Tsunade had grown up. But her expression afterward became increasingly strange, faintly carrying the feeling that she was scheming against her own grandfather. Glancing at the mountain of documents piled on the floor, Senju Hashirama immediately understood. He waved his hands repeatedly and said, "Little Tsunade, don't even think about dumping document work on me. When I was Hokage, most village affairs were handled by Tobirama. I'm not very good at that." Tsunade immediately retorted, "Grandfather, how can a Hokage not know how to handle official duties?" Hyuga Mirai sighed and said to Tsunade, "I'll find you 2 more assistants. The progress here is indeed a bit slow." Hearing this, the first to relax was Yakushi Kabuto. He was far busier than Tsunade. Everyone usable in Konoha had been dispatched by him. Although Konoha had plenty of talent, back then it was just a village. Now the area to manage had expanded to the entire Land of Fire, and Konoha was instantly stretched thin. "First Hokage, let Tsunade host you properly for now. If you want to visit the Sand Federation, she can arrange it. We're very close." Hyuga Mirai slightly emphasized the last sentence, hoping the first Hokage would not tell Tsunade about the years he spent being used as an old farmer, or it would damage their relationship. "Leave Uchiha Madara to me. I roughly know what he plans to do next." After speaking, Hyuga Mirai created a clone. The original and the clone then used Yamatsu Hirasaka to leave, one heading to the Land of Rain, the other returning to the Sand Federation. Ayaka, Naruto, Gaara, and Noara Rin were all in the Sand Federation. He needed to send a clone back to protect Ayaka. So that's the Akatsuki. The place is built pretty well, relying on the power of the Rinnegan to call himself a god. That's not entirely wrong. He is indeed using the power of a god. Uchiha Madara stood on a rooftop in Amigakure, looking at the tall tower located at the very center of the village. Since the constant rain climate of the Land of Rain had been changed, Nagato rarely used the rain tiger at will technique. The Akatsuki had already been exposed to the eyes of various countries, and 6-tailed beasts had been collected, so there was no longer any need for Amigakure to hide itself. It looks like the village has developed quite well. Did that brat Nagato put all his energy into the village? Uchiha Madara observed the situation in Amigakure. There were many stalls and many residents coming and going. At a glance, it was clear the village was very prosperous, a sight Madara had never seen before his death. It has nothing to do with Nagato at all. He's just an idiot immersed in the power of Lord Madara's Rinnegan. The Land of Rain became like this because the Akatsuki cooperated with the Hayakusa Trade Association of the Sand Federation. White Zetsu explained. Right now, aside from the 3 tails, the 1 tails and 9 tails are both in the Sand Federation. The 9 tails isn't in Konoha. But it doesn't really matter. White Zetsu, is there still no clue about the 3 tails? Uchiha Madara snorted indifferently. He believed he had already seen through the truth, and thus felt nothing about the current false peace. Madara had seen too little in the past. After learning about ancient events from the Sage of 6 Paths, he decided to overturn the former false eye of the moon, and rebuild a new world of peace. There's a bit of a guess, but it's not very certain. Lord Madara, guess what I discovered? White Zetsu grew playful again and spoke in riddles, but after being glared at by Madara, he obediently continued. Lord Madara, do you remember that after sealing the Three Tails into Obito's teammate, Noera Rin, just before the plan was executed, she was taken away by a red, metal-shelled man? Madara recalled it and nodded. That did happen. Are you saying Noera Rin didn't die and you found her? Wrong answer. I didn't find Noera Rin, but during the Sand Federation's battle against the Shinobi Alliance, they deployed hundreds of puppets very similar to those flying red metal men. If Noera Rin is still alive, then she must be there. In fact, White Zetsu hadn't seen it during the last war. He was too far away to see clearly. This intelligence came from his clones scouting the Federation's southwestern mining area. Afterward, Black Zetsu went there and possessed a participating shinobi to read their memories, confirming it. Then send more clones to that country to gather information on the Three Tails. If there's news, just follow for now. For Uchiha Madara, revival was the most important thing right now. Only by truly coming back to life could he fully absorb the Six Paths in power granted by the Sage of Six Paths. Otherwise, as an Edo Tensei body, he could only borrow it. Once used, the Six Paths in power would dissipate. White Zetsu replied, well, they've already been sent. If there's news, the clones will report back. But Lord Madara, Obito has gone missing. Should I send clones to find him? No need. Since he chose to use Edo Tensei to revive me, it means he had no intention of following my plan in the first place. But he also didn't expect things to change this much. Once I fully revive, Obito won't be able to stir up any waves. Uchiha Madara did not mention the Pure Land. From the Sage of Six Paths, he learned that someone had been provoking Indra and Azura. Although Madara felt it was Black Zetsu, whom he himself had created, the many anomalies made him decide to test it after reviving. Let's go. We're going to find that brat Nagato. After speaking, Madara leapt directly toward the central tower of Amigakure. You've used my eyes to play God for several years. It's time to return them. End of chapter. Chapter 369, Chapter 369. 1,322 words. Nagato, the others have already reported back. The IWA and Kumo Ninja have agreed to the alliance conditions. With two major villages involved, plus Konoha, and the Sand Federation exerting significant pressure on the small village, they accepted the alliance. Conan, in charge of external relations, quickly updated Nagato on the other villages' status. The plan was progressing unusually smoothly, the IWA and Kumo Ninja barely resisted, and the alliance was quickly confirmed, with the small village handling most of the communication. There was only one problem. Both major villages demanded that Amigakure gather information on the Third Tsuchikage and Fourth Raikage. They had sent envoys to the Sand Federation, but were completely refused, ejected before they could even state their request. Good, Conan. Before the next war arrives, try to bring the Iron Country's samurai into the fold, but only under the leadership of the Akatsuki. The game ends here, Nagato. A deep, commanding voice sounded. Nagato and Conan tensed, turning toward the wide-open gate. They were at the highest point of Amigakure's center. Normally, no one dared come near this tower, not even within 500 meters. It was Amigakure's strictest prohibition. Who's there? At the gate, a figure stood with arms crossed, wearing ancient-looking armor. His eyes glinted red faintly. Sharingan. Uchiha, Conan said coldly, raising her hands as dozens of paper shuriken appeared around her. From the Sand Federation. Intruding here without permission, you should know the consequences. Aside from the masked person claiming to be Uchiha Madara from Akatsuki, only the Uchiha clan existed in the Sand Federation. As soon as Conan finished speaking, her paper shuriken shot toward Uchiha Madara. Though made of paper, the hard paper technique gave them metallic-like durability, and she had embedded explosive tags within them. The paper shuriken reached Madara instantly, detonating in a series of explosions with fire and smoke. Killed him. Conan frowned, thinking it seemed too easy, but why didn't the Uchiha even dodge? If I were that easy to kill, then you could truly claim to be gods of this world. The voice sounded again. As the smoke cleared, Conan and Nagato saw Uchiha Madara encased in blue chakra bones. The explosions had not harmed him in the slightest. Susanoo. Seems you're a clan member with the Mangekyo Sharingan. But under my eyes, even the strongest Sharingan is useless. Nagato slowly stood. He could now fight with his true body, and compared to Six Paths Pain, his original body, fused with all outer path techniques, was even stronger. Ha ha ha. Madara laughed upon seeing Nagato, then his Mangekyo Sharingan transformed into a pale purple Rinnegan. Forming a hand seal, he addressed Nagato. Nagato, you've used my eyes for so long, became leader of Amigekure, and even considered yourself a god. For an ordinary Uzumaki, that must have been quite the experience. Now it's time for you to return them to me. Rinnegan. Conan and Nagato were shocked. Another Rinnegan appeared. How could this be? Before Conan could react further, Madara activated the seal inside Nagato. Combining a seal on the heart with the Rinnegan, half of Nagato's body was quickly covered in black matter. Nagato, what's happening? Conan asked, alarmed. She saw that Nagato seemed to have lost control of his body. The spreading black matter controlled him, and it was all Madara's doing. Indeed, just as he had said, the Rinnegan did not belong to Nagato. He was nearly fully under control. Paper technique. Unsure how to save Nagato, Conan could only strike at Madara. She condensed countless paper sheets behind her, forming angelic wings. Then countless shuriken and explosive tags transformed and shot toward Madara. Paper technique, disguising as an angel. Enough to fool civilians, White Zetsu had briefed Madara on Conan's techniques and personality. He understood her well. At this level, even his Susanoo could withstand it. She posed no threat. Boom. 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 Continuous explosions destroyed the tower almost instantly. The deafening blasts alerted Amigekure shinobi within several kilometers, who, realizing the sound came from the gods and angels' dwelling, cautiously approached, but no closer than 1 kilometer, fearing for their lives. The tower's explosions intensified. Tens or hundreds of explosive tags detonated simultaneously. Even Madara's first stage Susanoo was severely damaged. Similar to Tobirama Senju's summoning explosive tags. Not bad. Even in the Warring States era, you might survive alone. But compared to Uchiha power, still lacking. Madara's words barely finished when his Susanoo suddenly grew bones, forming a more than 10-meter-tall half-giant, then muscles and armor covered the skeleton. Even defensively, it was now many times stronger than before. Conan bit her lip. Using thousands of explosive tags barely dented Susanoo before, now she'd need tens of times that to have a chance. But Nagato was nearing his limit. What's wrong? Giving up? Madara asked, laughing lightly. He had not seriously engaged with the two yet. Using full strength on these children would be beneath his reputation. Nagato's resistance was a joke. Though physically improved, the dual control of the Rinnegan and the heart seal limited him. Any resistance was only because Madara held back. Damn it. Conan formed hand seals, ready to summon more explosive tags via paper technique. Madara shook his head in disappointment. At this level, you can't save Nagato. Fine. Enough delay, it's becoming boring. Nagato, I gave you these eyes. Now, return them. Yada no Magatama. Susanoo folded its hands, producing 7 or 8 chakra Magatama, instantly shooting toward Conan. Alert, she used paper technique to create a substitution and avoid the attack. But Madara's combat experience, combined with his Sharingan, detected her new position in the next moment. Fire release, great fire annihilation. A massive wall of flames swept toward Conan's paper substitution. Without stopping it, she would be seriously burned. Her paper wings launched countless paper shuriken mixed with hundreds of explosive tags, attempting to blast the flames apart. Boom! Hundreds of tags detonated in the great fire, sending 7 or 8 meter high waves of fire outward, consuming the village center in a nearly unstoppable blaze. The flames spread quickly. Within minutes they affected people several kilometers away. During an instant when the explosive tags detonated against the fire, Madara controlled Susanoo, forming a long blade, striking Conan. Thud. To dodge the flames, Conan momentarily neglected Madara, and was struck, flying over 200 meters into a building. She spat blood and lost consciousness. Madara's combat experience and power far surpassed hers. Even her paper technique posed no threat. Abandon futile resistance, Nagato. Your power and will are like a child's. Decades without accomplishment, playing at lofty ideals. Peace is not something you can achieve. Madara then strengthened the seal's power. As he slightly exerted himself, Nagato could no longer resist. The seal instantly took control of his body. Under Madara's control, Nagato slowly formed hand seals. Finally, after the last seal, Nagato involuntarily spoke, Rinne Tensei. With the Rinnegan's power activated, Madara felt the yin-yang release acting on his body. Sensation returned, cracks in the Edo Tensei body disappeared, and powerful chakra erupted, collapsing several surrounding buildings. This is my body, fully resurrected. Young, vigorous, alive. Ha ha ha. As the Rinnegan in the Edo Tensei fractured, Madara calmed, instantly teleporting next to Nagato. Still breathing, Uzumaki. Your clan is resilient but not for long. Noticing Nagato's state, Madara removed the Rinnegan from his body and placed it in his own. Now complete, not quite, a little more. Seeing the 6 paths Yin power pattern in his palm, he commanded White Zetsu, find Senju Hashirama's location. Likely still in the land of fire. I'll go myself. Madara then left Amigakure. Once he departed, White Zetsu patted the near-death Nagato side and said, sorry, boss. You were fake from the start. Farewell. White Zetsu then vanished underground, leaving the village. Shortly after, a dark spatial portal opened above Amigakure. Hyuga Mirai emerged, surveying the devastation below. Fast work. End of chapter. Chapter 370, Chapter 370. 1,362 words. By now, Amigakure had lost all signs of prosperity. Most villagers were still putting out fires, but many knew the gods and angels were fighting the enemy. Judging from the massive fire waves moments ago, the opponent was far beyond their ability to handle. So some villagers didn't dare approach. Even after Uchiha Madara had left, the Sensor ninjas confirmed that the Rain ninjas could only rescue people from the outskirts of the battle. Water release. Hyuga Mirai condensed the nearby rain and descended. He didn't even consider the technique's name. Now equipped with mastery over all 7 nature types, he could summon a downpour over the entire village without concern. Finding Conan and Nagato, he first lifted Conan from the rubble, then carried her to Nagato and helped him regain consciousness. Nagato, are you okay? Seeing the hollow where Nagato's eyes had been, Conan realized his Rinnegan had been taken. She also didn't know the severity of his condition. He used Rinne Tensei, he's barely holding on. If you have anything left to say, now is the time. Hyuga Mirai assessed Nagato's condition and added, the mental shock is immense. He probably believed peace was within reach, only to have it destroyed. Such despair leaves him feeling life is meaningless. A child's psyche can falter like this, listless, hopeless, there's almost no treatment, he added. Mirai spoke plainly. He had no intention of saving Nagato. A few days ago, he had planned to unite other villages against the Federation, but was outmaneuvered by Madara. He regretted it slightly. If Nagato had been able to gather Iwa, Kumo, and the smaller villages again, the southwest mining region of the Federation would have been fully staffed. "Who are you?" Conan asked coldly, sensing familiarity but ultimately recognizing she had never met him. "I am Hyuga Mirai. I've also spoken to you a few times under the name Jiekong Sanki, but not often." Conan interrupted, pleading, "Can you save Nagato?" "You must be dreaming," Mirai shook his head. "An hour ago you were plotting against the Sand Federation, and now you beg me to save someone. No wonder you were deceived by Madara for over a decade. You're not fit to be a ninja. Take Nagato out of the Land of Rain, the Sand Federation will handle the rest." "I can assist with the Land of Rain," Conan offered. "Taking Nagato away is the best help you can give the Sand Federation. In fact, without Akatsuki, the civilians of the Land of Rain would live better. Face reality, Conan, this country no longer needs you. Civilians rely on the Jiekong Trade Association to earn a living, and on the Jiekong and Uzumaki trade associations for goods. Amigakure only maintains order and taxes, but once the Sand Federation takes over, they'll do it better." Mirai had no interest in further discussion. Even forming a ninja alliance, Akatsuki had lost all purpose for him. The best option now was to retreat with the dying Nagato, perhaps still witnessing peace in the ninja world, a dream not entirely broken. With that, Hyuga Mirai left Amigakure using Yomi Barasaka. Conan, seeing his refusal, realized the truth: she and Nagato were complete failures, utterly deceived. Conan struggled to carry Nagato to a medical room, luckily intact. "No need, Conan. With Outer Path Rinne Tensei, there's no saving me." Nagato refused treatment. He knew best, his life was slipping away, and ordinary medical ninjutsu could not help. At most, he could survive half a day. Nagato. Conan didn't know what to say. Learning the truth about the Rinnegan, she realized that she, Nagato, and Yahiko had all been living a life of deception. Trained by Jiraiya to believe in human understanding, she had trusted Hanzo, leading to Yahiko's death. Nagato had sought to create a superweapon to inspire fear and bring peace, only to discover the Rinnegan was never truly his, he was merely a tool for resurrection. Reviewing her life, Conan realized her best achievement was fostering cooperation with the Sand Federation, improving civilian conditions, providing prosperity. Yet even this success relied on the Jiekong Trade Association. Perhaps Mirai was right, without Akatsuki, the Land of Rain's civilians would live better. Night fell. Conan did not place Nagato in the medical machine, and after half a day, his life finally ended. Once recovered, Conan left Amigakure carrying Nagato's body. After departing, Hyuga Mirai returned to the Sand Federation, recalled his clone, and then went to the neighboring area. Ayaka Uzumaki, having heeded Mirai's advice, decisively cancelled the so-called white wedding dress and sought several kipeos instead, though she wasn't sure which suited best and often consulted Kushina. Ayaka grew happier daily, while Kushina grew increasingly frustrated. She not only had to advise Ayaka but also listened to her gush about her romantic feelings for over 10 days, exasperating. "Kushina, isn't this too bold?" Seeing the kipeos, Ayaka blushed, almost covering her eyes, though curiosity made her peek occasionally. "The slit is too high, up to the waist," she noted. The magazine's photos exposed the waist, held by mere ties, definitely unsuitable. "This isn't for public wear, it's private." Kushina retrieved the magazine and grinned. "See the bold lines? Tempting. Maybe not as competitive as Kurenai Yuhi, but ahead of Kyo Hyuga. Trust me, we're clan, I wouldn't lie. Also red chipao with white socks, top-rated in the chipao poll." Flipping through, Kushina showed Ayaka the favorable reviews. Ayaka's eyes lit up, imagining herself wearing it to see Mirai. "Then buy 2 or 3 sets." 3 sets. Mirai's voice suddenly came from behind. Both girls startled, slamming the magazine shut. Kushina, embarrassed and annoyed, said, "Why didn't you use the door?" "Next time." Mirai calmed them, then asked seriously, "Where is Naruto?" He went with the lead Jonin to the Land of Water battlefield. He followed after seeing Sasuke's message to Mikoto. Gaara went too. I understand. Once I bring him back, keep him from wandering. Someone may be targeting the Nine Tails. Mirai left via Yomibirasaka, giving Ayaka a thumbs up, good taste. What about Naruto? Before Kushina could finish, Mirai had already left through a space-time portal, making her uneasy. Ayaka comforted her, don't worry. Mirai will personally retrieve Naruto, no one can defeat him. You're right, Ayaka. I overthought it. With strong Federation forces at the Land of Water battlefield, Naruto would be safe. Madara's departure was swift. 2 satellites scanned other areas, leaving only one covering the ninja world. By the time Satellite 18 focused on the Land of Rain, Madara had already gone. Additionally, Obito Uchiha was unpredictable. To be safe, Mirai planned to bring Naruto and Gaara back to the Sand Federation. Under his watch, no one could abduct them. Madara had a plan. After resurrecting and reclaiming the Rinnegan, he didn't immediately go to Konoha. Entering the Land of Fire, he stopped underground, creating a wood-release space to reside. His resurrected body, combined with the Rinnegan's absorption, best absorbed the Een power given by the Sage of Six Paths. After a day in the underground wood-release space, Madara slowly opened his eyes. So this is the Sage's Een release, interesting. Reaching 6 paths, my Rinnegan evolved. Hashirama must also have the Sage's gift. Absorbing his Yang and chakra should bring me close to Ten-Tail's Jinchuriki level. He noticed the hand seal mark had vanished and his eyes had strengthened, satisfied with the result. Using water release, he examined his eyes. One Rinnegan had 6 Magatama, and awakened a second dojutsu beyond the Rinnegan. Next, find Hashirama. Absorbing his power should reveal the 3 tails. But first the internal threat must be resolved, right, Zetsu? White Zetsu confused, shrugged, Lord Madara, you mean Obito? He left with Kamui. Even my clones couldn't locate him. Madara laughed, voice lowering, Obito is a pawn. No matter his ambition, he lacks the power to realize it. The internal threat I mean is someone who could endanger my life. Right, Zetsu. Instantly, Madara appeared next to Zetsu, placing a hand on him. Ikaga. A dojutsu that seals all power. Een, Yang, or anyone's will cannot escape Ikaga. Lord Madara, stop. I am your will. End of chapter. Chapter 371, Chapter 371. 1203 words. My will. If it were truly your will, you wouldn't resist now, you'd obediently be sealed according to it. Uchiha Madara used his dojutsu to seal Black Zetsu into a black sphere he had created. This was the power of his Rinnegan with Magatama, elevating the sealing technique several levels. Once sealed, only the same dojutsu could unlock it. Lord Madara. White Zetsu, seeing Black Zetsu sealed, didn't know whether to flee. He was afraid, but running was futile against Madara's would release, and he had no destination in mind. None of your concern. The Otsutsuki Kagaya wouldn't have such a foolish will. Continue gathering information. Madara crushed the black sphere and tossed the powder aside. The sphere was merely a vessel. Black Zetsu had been sealed in another space. In fact, I've already located the 3 tails Jinchuriki. You won't guess where. Seeing Madara show no intent to attack, White Zetsu reverted to his usual frivolity. Without Black Zetsu to interfere, he became even more careless. Speak. Madara ignored his teasing. Using Susanoo, he launched a chakra blade, slashing White Zetsu's face as a warning. They lived together in a Sand Federation hospital with the 9 tails Jinchuriki, White Zetsu cried, revealing the intelligence he had gathered. Monitoring them was difficult, I lost 2 clones to confirm this information. Good. It saves me from checking place by place. Madara paid no heed to White Zetsu's clones, defective creations from Hashirama cells, death meant nothing. But that Hyuga Mirai is strong, Lord Madara, White Zetsu continued. Obito nearly died trying to rescue someone from him. That guy's eyes seem on the same level as the Rinnegan. An anomaly that even the Sage of Six Paths in the Pure Land notices. Of course I will too. Madara spoke and left using would release. In his calculations, Hyuga Mirai's strength was as the sage had predicted. With yin-yang power, he was unconcerned about this heretic. With the Rinnegan, he could collect the tailed beasts and become the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. Without hidden manipulation, as Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, he would be the strongest. After Madara departed, White Zetsu clicked his tongue. Lord Madara now looks exactly like Obito back then. Hope the outcome isn't the same. He then burrowed underground and headed toward Konoha, relying on his clones to gather intelligence and witness the unfolding events. Tsunade, isn't this too cruel? Senju Hashirama saw Tsunade sending 134 Fire Country nobles to mine labor, feeling uneasy. In recent days, 7 noble families had already been wiped out. Grandfather, I told you, don't judge by appearances. These people obstruct the unification of the two nations. See for yourself. Tsunade handed Hashirama a file detailing the nobles' misdeeds, forced trades, harassment, and more. In their territories, these were minor issues, otherwise, they were relatively benevolent. Crucially, they raised armies, planning to cause trouble for Konoha, and dispatching agents to the Land of Earth and Land of Lightning. Allowing them to continue would incite local unrest. These entrenched families had existed longer than Konoha itself. If provoked, Konoha ninja would have to violently suppress them. Hashirama said nothing, conceiving thoughts of killing. Normally, noble affairs were left to the daimyo, but these villains' crimes justified direct action. Grandfather, help me process these new documents when you have time. The pile keeps growing, your granddaughter might collapse under the workload. Tsunade's resentment almost formed a clone. She had 7 working across Fire Country, while Kabuto Yakushi nagged her daily, making her the most overworked Hokage ever. Hashirama declined firmly, Tsunade, I barely understand current Konoha. As former Hokage, intervening now isn't wise. Tsunade pouted, considering, maybe call second grandpa to help. No, Tsunade. Tobirama is strong-willed, conflict may arise. He also holds grudges longer than me. Let him be. Hashirama knew Tsunade had endured hardship, she finally had stability. Tobirama intervening could create chaos. Hold on a bit, Tsunade. Things will improve. Tsunade scoffed, Grandfather, your persuasion is half as effective as Hyuga Mirai's. At that moment, Kabuto Yakushi knocked and entered. Tsunade tensed, fearing more work. Instead, Kabuto reported, Lady Tsunade, Kakashi's Sharingan was stolen. What? Tsunade asked, surprised. Who did it? I see. Bring Kakashi back and ask if he wants a normal eye or the Sharingan. Seeing Kabuto's expression, Tsunade realized it involved Obito Uchiha. Previously, Obito had left the Sharingan with Kakashi, seemingly unconcerned, but now he reclaimed it urgently to boost strength. Understood. Should we track Obito? His Mangekyo is troublesome, even Jonin struggle against him. Tsunade furrowed her brow, Akatsuki could have united villages, but now with Madara resurrected, it's useless. Obito may disagree with Madara, hence reclaiming the Sharingan. Kabuto, redistribute teams to 6 per group. 2 major threats existed, Madara and Obito, both unstable and capable of threatening Konoha and Sand Federation. Tsunade considered, I'll ask Hyuga Mirai. He should know how to handle Obito. His space ability isn't a threat to Mirai, he'll find a solution easily. Boom. A massive sound followed by tremors like an earthquake shook the area. What's happening? Tsunade steadied herself. An ANBU appeared, half kneeling, Hokage-sama, enemies are at the village gate. What enemies? Tsunade looked toward the gate. A towering Susanoo loomed, dwarfing the village walls. That's Madara's Susanoo. He's arrived at Konoha. Hashirama recognized it immediately, it seemed larger than before. Tsunade, furious, Madara thinks Konoha will let him bully us. Grandfather, protect the villagers while I teach him a lesson. No, Tsunade, let me go. Grandfather, I'm the Hokage now. Feeling empowered, Tsunade leaped from the window toward the gate. Kabuto cautioned, the gate area is damaged. If wood release is used, it can protect villagers during evacuation. I understand. Leave this to me. Hashirama nodded, recalling the devastation when he fought Madara before, he nearly sank the continent across the sea. Without protection, Konoha would be destroyed. Tsunade, enraged from accumulated administrative stress, now saw Madara threatening Konoha, and resolved to confront him, and if possible, eliminate him to prevent further chaos. She entered Sage mode, lifting the Een seal on her forehead. She no longer needed chakra to maintain youth, the seal's purpose now was solely combat. Konoha has changed. Hashirama may come out to fight. Madara, atop Susanoo, observed, only Hashirama could have opposed him a few days ago, but now resurrected, even Hashirama cannot stop his plan. Hashirama is slow. Before he arrives, let's give Konoha a greeting. Seeing the second Hokage rock statue, Madara felt it obstructive. Susanoo's right hand condensed several Yasaka beads. Obstruction should be removed. Bastard. What do you intend to do to Konoha? Madara heard the shout and saw a figure rushing at Susanoo. Want to die foolishly? Madara struck with Susanoo. Against the might of the Uchiha, such individual heroics were meaningless. Boom. Susanoo's palm collided with the figure, creating a tremendous impact. Madara adjusted Susanoo to prevent toppling hundreds of meters high. Bang. Bang. Just 2 steps backward, Susanoo destroyed much of the surrounding forest, angering Tsunade further. What immense power, who is this? Madara stabilized Susanoo and observed Tsunade, noting her resemblance to the last Hokage rock statue and recalling White Zetsu's intelligence, forming a suspicion. You are Hashirama's granddaughter, 5th Hokage, correct? Where is Hashirama? Why doesn't he appear? End of chapter. Chapter 372, Chapter 372. 823 words. Dealing with someone like you, I alone am enough. Uchiha Madara, as a defeated subordinate of my grandfather, you don't even have the right to make him appear. Tsunade shouted fiercely, removing her green short shirt. Her golden ponytail swayed in the air as chakra surged from her body. Defeated subordinate. If it weren't for obtaining his cells back then, who would have won was uncertain. Do you really think awakening your grandfathers would release allows you to stop me? Madara crossed his arms and coldly addressed Tsunade. He had learned about her from White Zetsu, Hashirama's granddaughter, 5th Hokage, the only person after Hashirama to awaken would release, who had fought Nagato with Rinnegan to a stalemate. Madara disregarded all of this. Nagato with transplanted Rinnegan could only perform basic techniques. Even clashing with him resulted in mutual harm, hardly impressive. Very well. If I kill you, Hashirama won't be able to hide. Protecting the village. A boring gesture. Madara saw rows of wood-release walls erected in Konoha, each hundreds of meters high and over 10 meters thick. Only Hashirama could produce such wood-release. Did he trust his granddaughter enough to think she could stop him? Madara felt belittled. Did she, a woman, think she could stop him? Looks like you're skilled in taijutsu. Let me show you something. I'll deal with you first, then find Hashirama. Madara deactivated Susanoo and leapt from the air to the ground with a heavy thud, shaking his armor, standing opposite Tsunade. Taijutsu, huh? Tsunade laughed. She had worried about keeping Susanoo away from Konoha, but now Madara approached her directly, ready to fight. What a joke. An old man surviving from the Warring States era, lost in his own illusions. Tsunade wanted Madara to test the entire ninja world, Who would dare challenge him in taijutsu? She clenched her fists with a hint of pride. If you want to die, I'll oblige. The first word barely left her mouth when she kicked off with incredible force, sprinting at a speed rivaling space-time ninjutsu, creating a small pit dozens of meters deep. Too slow. Madara's insight, though weaker than Rinnegan level, allowed him to respond optimally. Tsunade had activated 100 Talents technique, Sage Mode, and with Hyuga Mirai refining her cells, she strengthened her body while extending lifespan, incorporating remaining Ashura and Indra Chakra to cultivate Rinnegan. Among Mirai's students, she was unique. Her speed now rivaled Might Guy's 8 gates. She instantly appeared behind Madara. Boom! Madara barely blocked her strike and was sent flying like a cannonball, smashing dozens of giant trees, and traveling nearly 800 meters before stopping. Cough, speed and strength are impressive. No wonder Hashirama didn't send himself to block, but you've. Ha ha. Madara spat blood, laughing. He had thought no one except Hashirama could match him, yet here was an unexpected opponent. Hope you still talk big. Tsunade charged again. This time the distance allowed Madara to react. As he moved, his leg suddenly kicked like a horse's leap, thrusting his body. My body. Nerves malfunctioning. Was it that punch? Madara realized Tsunade had reached behind him. To avoid another hit, he had to rethink using taijutsu. Almighty push. A massive repulsive force radiated from Madara, throwing dust, trees, and debris aside. Tsunade's eyes shifted from 8 Tomo to Mangekyo, then to a faint purple Rinnegan, shocking Madara. Almighty push. A similarly terrifying force surged from Tsunade, colliding midair, creating a circular crater in the ground. Nearby, Hashirama, under Konoha's walls, activated Sage Mode, using wood release to shield the village. Before the forces collided, Madara and Tsunade were thrown back, though Madara still maintained control. How does she possess Rinnegan? What technique allows her body to recover so quickly? I'll use Susanoo. Stunned by her Rinnegan, Madara still focused on battle. As he summoned Susanoo's first form, Tsunade used wood release to create a massive wooden humanoid. Boom. 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 Each step of the giant wooden figure shook the earth. Under Tsunade's control, it moved slowly, destroying the forest, then lifted Susanoo, and ran toward the Valley of the End, a safe distance for catastrophic-level ninja combat. Hashirama, observing the retreating wooden figure, understood Tsunade's plan. Relocating the battlefield prevented damage to Konoha. Get out! At the Valley of the End, Tsunade hurled Susanoo from the wooden figure, forming hand seals as her chakra surged like waves. Every ounce of chakra from 100 technique poured into the next jutsu. Madara Uchiha, today you'll learn the consequence of being abandoned by the times, and still causing trouble. Would release, 1,000 hands Senju technique. Rumble. Crack. A nearly kilometer-tall wooden Senju Buddha slowly formed, clad in fiery armor. Tsunade's eternal Mangekyo bled from exertion, the first use of Susanoo in such magnitude, yet she endured the pain. The 1,000 hands formed nearly 100-meter-long fiery Susanoo swords. Madara, seeing this, opened his mouth in astonishment. 10 seconds passed before he spoke. Impressive. End of chapter. Chapter 373, Chapter 373. 1,378 words. Madara Uchiha's complete Susanoo, standing before Tsunade's Susanoo Buddha, looked like a child facing a giant. In both size and power, there was no comparison. Madara could also use wood release techniques, like wood clone and wood dragon, but he could not match the 1,000 hands technique, which required Sage Mode chakra. Uchiha Madara, today you'll learn that causing trouble in Konoha is the biggest regret you'll have after your revival. Tsunade instantly unleashed immense ocular power, covering the kilometer-tall 1,000 hands Susanoo with her own, forming Susanoo blades in all 1,000 hands. Using her eternal Mangekyo Sharingan like this caused her severe pain, blood streaming from her eyes. Prepare to die, Buddha of the Summit. With Tsunade's shout, the colossal Susanoo swung its blades at Madara. Each strike, wielded by a Kage-level ninja, was equivalent to an S-rank forbidden technique. Yet Tsunade could attack 1,000 times in succession. If I can't block this, I could really die, Madara thought. His almighty push had no effect on the massive Susanoo. The repulsive force would only send himself flying. Combined with would release defenses, nothing he could do would break through. Rinne Tensei. Using his Rinnegan, Madara split for shadows with partial independent power. For the first time, he fully unleashed this ocular jutsu. Is that a Rinnegan jutsu? Suddenly, there are 4 Madaras. Tsunade's expression tightened. She too possessed Rinnegan and could clearly track Madara's shadows. Though she had Rinnegan jutsu, she had been conserving it while using Susanoo. Now she decided to test it. Reigoku. From Tsunade's gaze, lightning erupted, appearing suddenly and spanning several kilometers. Bolts were 2 to 3 meters thick, rivaling S-rank lightning release techniques. Boom. Crackle. Charged with Sage Chakra, the lightning missed Madara's split shadows but forced his complete Susanoo to retreat 2 steps, destroying the nearby forest. The ground and trees were charred black. Tsunade's Rinnegan could turn any jutsu she knew into a domain without hand signs, doubling its power, up to 3 kilometers in range. She had planned to use this with Hyuga Mirai but now directed it at Madara. Doesn't work? Then I'll crush your body directly. Tsunade commanded her Susanoo. Over 1,000 hands swung their blades at Madara. Boom. 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 Thunderous impacts echoed, reaching 10 miles away. The Susanoo-Buddha's arms shattered, massive wood release palms falling like small mountains, sending shockwaves and dust into the air. Before the blades could strike Madara, invisible attacks had already broken many of them. In Tsunade's Rinnegan vision, Madara's shadows were formidable, seemingly flying and capable of shattering her armored Susanoo with punches and kicks. But a few arms were nothing, for shadows were no concern. Even if 100 Susanoo arms were destroyed, it wouldn't matter. Die. Boom. A cataclysmic sound echoed across the battlefield. The earth and sky darkened, uprooting trees and shredding the nearby environment. Clouds overhead were blown apart by the hurricane-force shockwave. Boom. 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 The Susanoo continued attacking, blade after blade. Broken arms were replaced instantly by more wooden limbs wielding blades. The colossal thunder-like noise was audible even in distant Konoha. Tsunade. Senju Hashirama remained uneasy. He knew Madara well, and with the 6 paths power he now wielded, Madara was stronger than before. Though Tsunade had reassured him, he still prepared to assist her. Kabuto, I'll help Tsunade. I leave Konoha to you. It's fine, first Hokage. I've already had Orochimaru inform Lord Mirai about this situation. Kabuto tended to his bitten fingers and explained. Unfortunately, only 3 of Mirai's exclusive summons could contact him from Ryuchi Cave. Messages would have to pass through Orochimaru, but they would arrive quickly. Hashirama felt slightly relieved. Has Madara reached Konoha? Before he finished, a spatial portal silently opened, and Hyuga Mirai stepped out. So fast. Hashirama was startled. Yomi Barasaka always appeared silently. Even the most perceptive ninja would miss it if not seen directly. Yes, Lord Mirai. Mirai saw the ongoing battle at the Valley of the End. I understand. Kabuto, handle Konoha. Leave the rest to me. He opened another portal and stepped through, no longer needing to travel conventionally. After Mirai left, Kabuto shrugged at Hashirama. First Hokage, I'll return to business. With Mirai here, it's fine. If curious, go see for yourself. Kabuto then departed. Roads in front of the village were destroyed, and more work awaited. He wondered if Tsunade might feign illness after this fight to rest. Hiss. Better prepare. If she feigns illness, others might not notice, but I can convert Konoha hospital rooms into an office. Even feigning illness, she'll handle paperwork. Kabuto hurried toward Konoha Hospital. Ha. Tsunade panted heavily. Driving the Susanoo Buddha for 1,000 strikes nearly depleted her chakra. Kneeling atop it, even armored Susanoo struggled to maintain form. Her eyes burned from overusing ocular power. Using Susanoo to cover the kilometer-tall 1,000 hands, she expended nearly all her Rinnegan energy. Is he dead? After the Susanoo shattered, it seemed Madara summoned something to block subsequent attacks. Tsunade wasn't sure. She sensed the outer path avatar at the instant Madara summoned it, but her Rinnegan was drained. If not, this is your final strike. As dust cleared, Tsunade maneuvered the Susanoo Buddha, revealing Madara hiding behind the outer path avatar. Not dead, tenacious life force. That face, looks like you stole my grandfather's power. After his armor was destroyed, Tsunade saw a face growing uncontrollably from Hashirama cells in his chest, proof he gained would release. Yet the cells could not regenerate lost limbs, only his left leg remained. His arms and right leg were destroyed during the cataclysmic attack. This ends now. The Susanoo Buddha swung a massive wooden arm at Madara. At the last moment, Madara opened his eyes, releasing immense ocular power. Almighty push. The repulsive force struck the Susanoo Buddha. Though many arms were destroyed, its mass remained, merely freeing Madara from its grip. He flew back hundreds of meters, rolling before landing. From underground, a Zetsu emerged. Seeing Madara's condition, it shrugged jokingly, "Oh my, Lord Madara, you don't look so well. Enough talk. Give me your arm." Madara, embarrassed from Tsunade's beating, glared at the mocking Zetsu. Under his command, Zetsu severed its own arm, which Madara attached to his stump. Smoke rose and in seconds, the arm was successfully transplanted. With Hashirama cells already present and Zetsu's clone created from Outer Path Avatar and Hashirama cells, transplantation was quick. Madara swiftly took Zetsu's left arm and right leg, regaining mobility before Tsunade arrived. Not bad. Your power is slightly above Hashirama's, but I, Madara Uchiha, stand last. Let's start again. He laughed, noting Tsunade's depleted chakra. He summoned complete Susanoo again, controlling the Outer Path Avatar. Though smaller than the Buddha, he knew Tsunade couldn't endure much longer. Seeing Madara's arrogance, Tsunade smirked. Madara, you think you have all the helpers? Madara shrugged. Hashirama. Let him come quickly. If he delays, his only granddaughter dies. I don't think you have that capability. A voice came from behind Tsunade. Madara noticed a spatial portal opening, and a stranger emerged. Lord Madara, this is Hyuga Mirai. Zetsu, missing both arms and a leg, shouted before being obliterated by an impact. Next time, contact me first. Mirai placed a hand on Tsunade's shoulder. She felt her body rapidly recover, chakra and ocular power restored to peak condition. Who strikes first? Tsunade gestured, you handle him, I'll manage that control. She indicated the Outer Path Avatar, sensing immense tailed beast chakra inside. With her Rinnegan, she could wrest control from Madara. Fine, rest. I want to see what the 6 paths left in Madara. Mirai's words barely fell when white sage robes with Tomo markings appeared on him, hair turned snow white, 9 orbs behind him, and a 9 Tomo Rinnegan on his forehead. Though silent, his presence exerted immense pressure on Madara, stronger than the 6 paths in the Pure Land. It was as if facing another 6 paths in person. End of chapter. Equals 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 equals. Drop them power stones please. Support me on Patreon if you'd like access on advanced chapters. I have finished all the chapters and uploaded them there. Pat Rayon. com/turd translations, just remove the space. Chapter 374, Chapter 374. 1242 words. So you are Hyuga Mirai, the so-called heretic of the ninja world, according to the Six Paths. Madara Uchiha struggled to suppress the unease in his heart, forcing himself calm as he spoke to Mirai. What defines a heretic? Popular opinion. Then you should be the heretics. 20 million civilians in the ninja world lived well under my rule, yet you revived from the Pure Land just to destroy their lives. If it's about strength, I received the Tomo Sharingan from the Six Paths. How can you call me a heretic? No sooner had the last word left his mouth than Mirai appeared before his Susanoo, moving so fast that even Madara's Rinnegan could not track him. He saw only Mirai pause briefly, then spin, and deliver a kick. Madara's pupils constricted as an irresistible force lifted his hundreds of meters tall Susanoo into the air. Crack, crack, crack. His eyes stung. Madara couldn't maintain the Susanoo, which shattered midair into debris. Shattered with a single kick. Such power. I must find a chance to use my Rinnegan jutsu. Madara barely thought this when he felt a hand clamp around his neck. The next moment, he was yanked and slammed into the ground. Boom. He crashed into the earth over 10 meters deep. The right leg he had transplanted from Zetsu snapped instantly. Spitting blood, Madara had no strength to even raise his hand after just a few exchanges. His body ached, bones nearly 70% shattered from the fall. Even Hashirama cells would take considerable time to heal such injuries. The heretic the Six Paths spoke of, is this him? Madara wheezed. Having fought hundreds of battles, he had never felt so powerless. Even against Tsunade, he could remain calm, using the outer path avatar to absorb most damage and drain her chakra. Now he felt utterly helpless. Kicked the Susanoo to pieces, what kind of monster is this? No wonder the Six Paths wanted me and Hashirama to cooperate, and that space ability too. Before he could finish, Mirai stepped through a spatial portal and spoke. What else did the Six Paths say? If you honestly reveal your information, I might spare your life. Madara felt no hope, only rage. Since his revival, aside from reclaiming the Rinnegan and sealing Black Zetsu, he had suffered setback after setback. He failed to steal Hashirama's Yang power, or Sage Chakra, and had been beaten by Hashirama's granddaughter. Rely on mercy to survive? Never. Don't underestimate me. I am Madara Uchiha. Rinne Tensei. Madara lifted his head, glaring with his Rinnegan. For shadows split from him, attacking Mirai instantly. Truly ungrateful. Mirai raised his hand slightly. For gray bones grew from his palms and shoulders, then shot out, piercing Madara's shadows. The bone-killing technique, a bloodline art, could destroy Rinnegan shadows when ninjutsu and sage techniques could not. Ugh! As the shadows vanished, Madara groaned. Pain surged through his Rinnegan, worse than any sealing technique. He would not be able to use Rinne Tensei for a long time. I hope your stubbornness keeps you alive, Mirai said, leaving a divine pursuit orb behind before returning to Tsunade via Yomibirasaka. Tsunade, seeing Mirai, asked in confusion, you. Boom. The pit Madara had created erupted in a massive explosion, its flames and shockwave covering miles. Mirai had thrown the outer path avatar into the spatial plane of Amatsu Mikado, and used the orb to shield himself and Tsunade, protecting them from the blast. The Divine Pursuit Orb, made from high-density chakra of the seven natures of Yin-Yang, contains the power of all things. Fully released, it could obliterate life within dozens of kilometers or sink a small island. Mirai restrained the orb's power, sparing Konoha from full devastation. Even so, the force was more than enough to overwhelm Madara. Even Six Paths level warriors dare not endure the orb's explosion directly. Madara, only partially entering Six Paths, could not create such a device. When the shockwave subsided, Tsunade asked, "Is he dead?" "Not yet. Still alive, but soon." Mirai saw Madara buried under rock. His chakra flames had not extinguished, and the transplanted Hashirama cells kept him alive despite grievous injuries. Mirai clapped his hands. The fractured earth trembled, raising massive stone pillars to lift Madara from the depths. "What are you going to do with him?" Tsunade crossed her arms. "He's a threat. Better deal with him directly." Madara nearly destroyed Konoha. Tsunade had no tolerance for him. If he escaped, only Mirai and she could stop him. Eliminating the threat now was best. "Don't worry. He won't cause trouble anymore." Mirai created a clone, which approached Madara, removing his Rinnegan. Seals were applied, leaving him powerless to resist. This pair of eyes is his trump card, the Tomo Rinnegan. Each has a unique jutsu. "I'll test it later." Mirai stored Madara's eyes, which could later be used to create a loyal subordinate of great power. "As for Madara, let your grandfather deal with him, then secure him." "My grandfather, he's here." Tsunade turned toward Konoha, seeing Senju Hashirama approaching shortly. He examined Tsunade and said with relief, "Tsunade, glad you're fine." That commotion was worrying. "Grandfather, I had the upper hand." "Trust your granddaughter, I am the 5th Hokage." "Ha!" Tsunade, embarrassed by Mirai's teasing, scowled. "Why are you laughing?" "Just happy the ninja world will soon be at peace," Mirai said, shrugging. Hashirama ignored them, seeing Madara barely breathing. Sighing, he said, "I'll check on Madara." "Tsunade, you two head back." Tsunade nodded to him. "Understood. Return quickly, grandfather." She and Mirai flew back to Konoha. Although Madara attacked, village damage was minimal. A few unstable houses collapsed, no casualties. Terrain changed slightly, with the village gate destroyed, and a deep pit several hundred miles away. Near Konoha, Tsunade suddenly stopped. She formed hand seals, absorbing her chakra into the Hyakushi seal, turning pale as if gravely injured. Mirai widened his eyes in disbelief. "Tsunade, feigning illness before your leader. Don't underestimate me. I'll rest just 2 days. If forced to handle paperwork day and night, I might collapse." Tsunade clasped her hands, pleading. Kabuto had been pressuring her with Konoha's welfare, world peace, and villagers' happiness. Continued stress could truly make her ill. "This is your fault. You promised an assistant, yet delayed like Orochimaru." Mirai didn't admit forgetting, or Tsunade would demand leave or indulgences. He replied, "Kabuto might still see through this. His medical skill is high. As long as you cooperate silently, it'll work." Tsunade was confident. Apart from Mirai and Orochimaru, few knew the human body better. Her act was convincing, undetectable even by instruments. To sell it further, she rested her arm on Mirai's shoulder, pretending chakra exhaustion. Mirai patted his forehead, sighing. "You're too committed. 3 kilometers from Konoha, at this pace, it'll take 2 hours." Tsunade's laziness was legendary, but understandable. Managing an entire country's affairs was exponentially more work than a village. "I'll cooperate this once. If Kabuto sees through it, it's on him." Mirai lifted Tsunade like a patient, flying toward Konoha. "Don't worry, no one will notice anything amiss," she stammered. Her body stiffened momentarily, then relaxed, no struggle. After all, it was acting. Kabuto would be convinced. End of chapter. Equals 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 equals. Drop them power stones, please. Support me on Patreon if you'd like access on advanced chapters. I have finished all the chapters and uploaded them there. Pat Rayon. com/turd translations, just remove the space. Chapter 375, Chapter 375. 1,357 words. Has Lady Tsunade been injured? This was far too fake. Two top medical ninjas couldn't treat a single patient, and now, claiming serious injury, Lady Tsunade wanted an excuse to rest. Kabuto Yakushi, seeing the situation, immediately suspected something but still stepped forward to examine her with medical ninjutsu. Her chakra was nearly depleted, her meridians badly damaged, and her internal organs made faint shifting sounds. After the check, Kabuto silently marveled. Truly the most renowned medical expert in the ninja world, even he couldn't detect a faked condition. Clearly, Tsunade had a long way to go before reaching the pinnacle of medical mastery. It seems Madara Uchiha is indeed a formidable opponent for Lady Tsunade. Fortunately, I foresaw this and prepared a hospital room for her. Mirai-sama, please follow me. Kabuto adjusted his glasses, a faint smile on his face, and led them toward Konoha Hospital. See? I told you it would be fine. As long as she stays in the hospital, there's no problem. Tsunade whispered proudly to Hyuga Mirai, but Mirai knew better. If a top-level spy were this easily fooled, then Kabuto wasn't as formidable as Orochimaru or Tsunade in selecting assistants. Soon, the three arrived at Konoha Hospital, where Kabuto led them to the specially prepared room for Tsunade. Tsunade was stunned upon seeing the room. Aside from the bed, almost all her Hokage office furnishings were there: bookshelves, filing cabinets, and Kabuto even thoughtfully provided a bedside work desk. Since the filing cabinets couldn't hold all the recent documents, Kabuto stacked them on the floor, neatly arranged by date. Seeing this, Mirai placed Tsunade on the bed and grinned. Rest easy. I'll go ahead. He then turned slightly to Kabuto. Take good care of Tsunade. Kabuto gestured and smiled. Don't worry, Mirai-sama. I've deployed members of the Perception Barrier Squad around here to ensure no one disturbs Lady Tsunade. Tsunade, beside them, veins bulging in anger, gritted her teeth, almost to the point of breaking her lips. Mirai wisely departed to avoid her outburst. Normally, she needed 14 hours of work daily. Now, lying in the hospital, she'd occupy at least 18 hours. Mirai estimated that 2 days of feigned illness would be enough for her to heal before returning to the Hokage office. Shortly after Mirai left Konoha, Senja Hashirama finished his discussion with Madara. Mirai's clone, positioned afar and uninterested in the old men's talk, observed. Hashirama now showed little interest in the mortal world. After Hashirama departed, Mirai's clone secured Madara within the Amatsu Mikado spatial containment. His Rinnegan, flesh, and other components could produce a nanotech biological guard, with energy supplied via an enhanced arc reactor. With Madara captured and Nagato dead, Mirai informed the federal authorities, and immediately ordered Maki to lead 1,000 ninja to seize Rain Village and the Land of Rain. Many members of the Jiakong Trade Association accompanied them to pacify civilians. Mid- and low-level civilians in the Land of Rain, influenced by Jiakong, showed little resistance. Some even believed it long overdue for the Sand Federation to take over. Those who had visited the Federation, seeing the living conditions there compared to the Land of Rain, thought the Rain ninjas were practically vampires. After Conan and Nagato vanished, some in Rain Village had attempted to consolidate power as new leaders. They did not expect the Sand Federation to arrive swiftly. With the mountains between the two countries gone, within 2 days, the Federation's ninjas penetrated Rain territory. Where is Lady Angel? Where is Lord Kami? The newly appointed Rain Village leader panicked when Maki's federal ninja arrived. Seeing over 1,000 ninjas, he remembered that leading the village was dangerous. Other Rain ninjas might survive, but he was nearly on a kill list. His predecessors, Hanzo and the previous god leader, seemingly didn't survive. Was it now his turn? Quickly, find Lady Angel. He ordered frantically, but aside from some loyal subordinates, no one listened. Once ambitious in power, now the Sand Federation had arrived, responsibility had to be shouldered. In fact, after Conan and Nagato disappeared, many Akatsuki elders also left Rain Village, leaving few Akatsuki ninjas behind, mostly Rain Ninja. Taking Rain Village took little time. The local ninjas couldn't match the federal forces in numbers or skill. The Rain Ninja lacked morale and were quickly subdued by Maki's team. Except for Rain Village and the capital, other areas were calm. Civilians, reliant on the Jiakong Trade Association, were easily controlled. With Rain Village captured, Sand Federation territory became contiguous. Relations with Konoha progressed, the land of water fell, and soon, the Federation would be the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful nation in the ninja world. Standardized textbooks, systems, and ninja attire were being implemented. Shikaku and Kabuto drafted a list of 100 students to study in the Federation for 2 months. Afterward, they'd become the first administrative personnel in the Land of Fire, governing alongside Federation-trained interns. With constantly updated computer networks and communications, the Land of Fire would fully integrate within 2 years. Konoha citizens showed no resistance, all working toward a common goal, except Tsunade, who still slacked. What's going on? It's been 2 days, yet no meeting. Kakuzu asked sharply, looking at the ring in hand. He had persuaded the IWA and Kusa Ninja. According to Nagato, they should have confirmed the next plan via projection 2 days prior. 2 days without notice, could the leader be dead? Black Hammer Raiga remarked casually. Although unlikely, the extended silence suggested something had happened. Kakuzu fell silent, torn between going to the underground gold exchange for a bounty or waiting for Payne's news. The bounty missions were minor, wartime rewards were the main gain. Harvesting lives on the battlefield was easy and continuous for him. But Payne hadn't contacted them, frustrating Kakuzu. 2 days wasted meant lost money. No need to wait for Payne. He's dead. The space in front of Kakuzu and Raiga twisted. Obito Uchiha emerged from Kamui. Akatsuki uniforms. Never seen you before, Raiga said, raising his thunder blade. Kakuzu shook his head, also unfamiliar with Toby. Obito waved. Because Payne existed publicly, I never appeared in the organization. Now that he's dead, only I can reunite Akatsuki. By the way, I captured the Seven Tails recently. The Seven Tails? With that space jutsu, infiltrating the Chunin exams seems reasonable. Kakuzu glanced at Obito. What's your plan? And how did the leader die? Not that I want to know, but if the Rinnegan could be killed, can we even face the enemy? Relax. Payne's death was accidental. I have a method to deal with the Sand Federation. In fact, you have no choice. Obito revealed his Sharingan beneath the mask. When Madara's Edo Tensei body lost control, Obito realized Nagato was doomed, and the Rinnegan couldn't be taken. Later, learning from White Zetsu that revived Madara had been defeated, he thought the Moon Eye plan was impossible, until an unexpected encounter gave him hope. The Land of Rain is captured, the Land of Water's war ended. Only the Land of Earth, the Land of Lightning, and smaller nations remain. If they fall to the Sand Federation, where else can you go? Consider how the Sand Federation treats the underground gold exchange and rogue ninjas. Then, what can you do? Mine like coalition ninjas. Obito's words silenced Kakuzu and Raiga for a moment. Finally, Kakuzu asked, so what's your method? Not yet. I've found a way to counter them. You must continue contacting IWA and surrounding small villages. A White Zetsu clone emerged at Obito's side. Not as convenient as projection, but White Zetsu can relay messages. Kakuzu asked solemnly, where will you go next? To find more people capable of fighting the Sand Federation. More allies, higher success. You two are the last Akatsuki members to agree. Now find others. Obito returned to Kamui space, retrieving his left eye. Using Kamui, his speed doubled. End of chapter. equals 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 equals. Drop them power stones, please. Support me on Patreon if you'd like access on advanced chapters. I have finished all the chapters and uploaded them there. Patreon.com/turd translations, just remove the space. Chapter 376, Chapter 376. 1308 words. Mirai-sama, this is the wedding plan we prepared. We'll invite the leaders of Konoha's 37 clans, the 5th Kazekage, and the captain of the security corps. Hyuga Mirai took the wedding outline from the federal officials, frowned slightly as he spread it out, and said in surprise, 18 pages just for notes. Do we need to pay attention to all this? This is a condensed version. The full details are in this booklet. I'll skip that, Mirai waved off. He couldn't understand how a simple wedding turned into a full book. If it weren't padded, these people were true talents. Has the war in the land of water ended? The official immediately entered work mode and replied, we've captured the daimyo's palace and Hidden Mist village. Hidden Mist surrendered under the guidance of a former master, who later committed suicide. However, the village didn't resist, and the power transition was smooth. Small-scale rebellions still occur across the land of water, but under the puppet division suppression, over 3,000 have been killed, and prisoners have increased to 7,000. Mirai-sama, it seems the southwestern mining area can't accommodate them all. Mirai pulled out a project plan and tossed it to the official. Then have them build roads. Add 3 railways within the Federation, from Kawasuna District to Konoha, Tansaka Street, and Ryuchi District. All plans can commence. Send orders to the land of water battlefield commanders, leave no rebels alive, but don't capture indiscriminately. The ninja world's development required manpower. Even with robots for labor, mineral resources had to be extracted first to mass-produce machines. Until then, these prisoners were the best labor force. Even if only moving bricks, the Federation would maximize their value. Currently, the Federation was still half agricultural, half industrial. After absorbing over 10,000 prisoners, whether for mining or infrastructure, manpower was urgently needed. Also, the position of Deputy Minister of Education has 4 candidates. Mirai checked the list and confirmed, all 4 are acceptable. Have Yamanaka Kaichi and Hyuga Takuma train in the Federation for 3 months. Once familiar with the school system, they'll return to the land of fire to establish branch schools. Now, ninja rosters were fully shared. Some federal appointments considered Konoha's ninjas, but those selected still had to understand the Federation's governance and administrative principles. Mirai then printed a roster of 10 administrative staff and 20 teachers from the Ministry of Education, and handed it to the official in front of him. This official was almost Mirai's assistant, though still the 3rd in the administration, with plenty of duties. After discussing some matters, the official left with a pile of files, only to return shortly after with more. Mirai-sama, you haven't confirmed the wedding details yet. By the way, your new home is near your current residence, and there will be much to handle that day. He had forgotten his original purpose amidst official matters. Mirai sighed and waved him off. Handle it as you see fit. I have no objections. A thick wedding planning book was madness. Mirai had decided he'd send a clone to cooperate, while he took Ayaka Uzumaki and others to relax. Still, he felt his workload growing. Even if Pakura wasn't back, all tasks shouldn't fall on him. Mirai called another person, gave instructions on security corps expansion, and asked why he kept reporting to him. Reluctantly, the man revealed it was the Kazekage's orders. After learning this, Mirai smiled and summoned the federal press to spend the next 2 weeks reporting heroic deeds from the land of water battlefield. The 5th Kazekage alone suppressing Hidden Mist, expanding territory by 3,000 kilometers, and so on. The media was under Mirai's control, all news within the Federation was managed by Number 18. For now, Pakura was the Federation's hero. Even if she wanted to abdicate, no one would agree. Her word alone could draw hundreds or thousands to the Kazekage's office, urging her not to step down. Mirai's residential area, aside from the Uzumaki and Uchiha Mikoto families, had no other residents. After confirming his marriage, the Federation designated this zone as his private area. It was secluded, quiet, and lightly developed. Mirai personally designed the house and built an underground lab. While smaller than the Roran or T-Country labs, its usable space matched the Uzumaki Nation's testing base. Upon return, Mirai found Kushina and Ayaka Uzumaki. One was struggling with a book. Upon seeing him, Kushina complained, "Your wedding plans are overly complicated. Memorizing all this is a headache. You're actually reading it seriously." Mirai glanced at Ayaka's book, saw simulated scenarios inside, and tossed it aside, saying, "Ayaka, don't bother. They've gone insane trying to showcase the merger of the two nations. Just send a clone to handle them." Ayaka laughed like a crescent moon. "All right, Mirai-sama. Do you want anything special to eat that day?" he asked, leading Ayaka upstairs. "You cooking yourself?" "Sometimes, after eating enough fine food, you naturally start cooking." They went upstairs, leaving Kushina alone on the first floor. After a while, she muttered "damn it," and returned home. She realized that being shown affection could be both sweet and bitter. The southwestern mining area stretched over 1,000 kilometers to Roran. Rich in minerals, its underground reserves were dozens to hundreds of times greater than the former Land of Wind, with more being surveyed. Even a century of mining wouldn't exhaust it. Besides laborers and federal staff, prisoners comprised the remaining workforce. Initially, many high-ranking ninjas resisted becoming lowly miners, a massive fall from grace. Led by the fourth Raikage, they still clung to pride and refused dirty work. The Federation's supervisors had a method: prisoners earned rations via points. No work, no food, leading to starvation. The Raikage endured, but his loyal subordinates couldn't watch him starve. In a 20-person dorm, a growling stomach would be humiliating. So some cloud ninjas worked non-stop, pooling points to feed the Raikage. Ninjas had large appetites, and unlike civilian workers, exchanging points for extra meals was difficult, costing double points. After 2 days of receiving food from his subordinates, the Raikage began working for points. Cloud, Rock, Mist, and Konoha ninjas observed, accepting gifts unconditionally would tarnish the Raikage's reputation. With ninja taijutsu, the Raikage earned points faster than others. Cloud ninjas trained in taijutsu also worked the fastest among all prisoners. The next day, at shift's end, the Raikage recorded his points and approached the local supervisor. "What's the matter?" The supervisor, an ordinary civilian, knew these miners were formerly enemies and feared the Raikage's intimidating presence. Suppressing his anger, the Raikage asked calmly, "Can points be exchanged for medicine? My subordinates are sick and need treatment." "No," the supervisor shook his head, then added, "Take sick people to the medical area. Medicine cannot be distributed privately, and no points are required." After giving directions, the supervisor dismissed him. The Federation valued prisoners highly. Losing a ninja to illness was a significant loss. After delivering medicine to sick comrades, the Raikage rested, preparing for 12 more hours of work the next day. Without preserving his strength, he couldn't even earn food for his subordinates. "Pitiful, fourth Raikage," a voice echoed late at night. Other ninjas awakened as the space before them distorted and a masked figure appeared. "Who's there?" Despite being unable to use ninjutsu or chakra, the ninjas drew on taijutsu and shouted warnings. If the intruder was hostile, they could alert others with their lives. Once contending with the yellow flash for the fastest ninja, now the Raikage has fallen this far, Obito Uchiha murmured, observing his decline. End of chapter. equals 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 equals. Drop them power stones please. Support me on Patreon if you'd like access on advanced chapters. I have finished all the chapters and uploaded them there. Patreon.com/turd translations, just remove the space. Chapter 377, Chapter 377. 2,249 words. That outfit. Are you a member of the Akatsuki from the Land of Rain? The fourth Raikage's right-hand men, Darui and C, were also in the room. Before his capture, C had been the head of the Cloud Village's intelligence division. The Cloud Village naturally had conducted investigations into the Akatsuki, which participated in the Fourth Great Ninja War. The black robe with red clouds was the Akatsuki's most famous attire. However, the Cloud Village hadn't managed to uncover detailed information about the Akatsuki's members, and didn't know much about Obito Uchiha either. Upon hearing this, Raikage coldly asked Obito Uchiha, a member of Akatsuki. What is your purpose? To rescue you, to gather everyone's strength to oppose the Sand Federation. Although you lost to the Hokage of Konoha, the influence of the five Kage remains. If you can leave this place, you can summon a group of ninja to resist the Sand Federation. Obito Uchiha directly stated his purpose. He believed that among the ninja imprisoned here, there wasn't a single one who didn't want to leave. As long as he had a way to rescue the people here, these ninja wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. Darui frowned and asked, don't you know we have sealing techniques placed on us? Leaving here means death, and we can't even use chakra now. Since I've said it, it means I have a solution. Obito Uchiha took out a remote control and showed it to Raikage, continuing. This is the remote controlling the mechanisms on your bodies. Furthermore, the devices controlling your mechanisms elsewhere are also being monitored by people I sent. As long as I don't control this, they are harmless. I stared intently at the remote in Obito Uchiha's hand and spoke, if we are to cooperate, then hand over the remote control to us first. Crack. The remote control was directly crushed into pieces by Obito Uchiha and thrown on the ground. Raikage, I never intended to use such a thing to control you. If we are not sincerely united, the outcome is only destruction. By the way, the Land of Water has been destroyed. Now, among the five great nations, only the Land of Earth and the Land of Lightning remain holding out. The Sand Federation people come every 7 days. I will return in 3 days. This is your last chance. After saying this, Obito Uchiha directly entered the Kamui dimension and left this place. After Obito Uchiha left, Mabui and the others all looked at the Raikage. After a while, they finally asked, Lord Raikage, should we trust him? While the Raikage was deep in thought, his breathing became slightly heavier. After a moment, he made a decision, saying, aside from trusting him, we have no other choice. For the Cloud Village, I am willing to trust this guy once. Tomorrow, Mabui, you cover for me. I will go discuss this with the Hokage, Tsuchikage and Mizukage. The Hokage referred to was Hiruzen Sarutobi. In his heart, the fifth Hokage Tsunade was the traitor to the ninja world and the person the Raikage hated the most. Rin, I never thought you were still alive. Seeing Noera Rin in the Sand Federation, Kakashi stood frozen in place for a good while. Although her appearance had changed a bit, matured a lot, Kakashi still recognized her at a glance. I didn't die, Kakashi. The one who actively threw themselves at your jutsu back then wasn't me. Noera Rin smiled at Kakashi and said, I was saved by Senior Ayaka Uzumaki afterward. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. It's alright, I can understand. Kakashi thought about the hostile situation between Hyuga Mirai and Konoha back then, and the fact that Noera Rin also had the three tails inside her. It would have been abnormal if they could have been in contact. Soon, the two chatted for a while at Kushina's house. During this, Kushina also chimed in a few times, but she felt somewhat distant from Kakashi. To be precise, Kushina didn't have much goodwill towards those people from Konoha. When Naruto was captured by the route, Kakashi was also serving in the route. Although it had nothing to do with Kakashi, Kushina still found it somewhat hard to accept. Even if she didn't blame Kakashi, the relationship between the two couldn't possibly be the same as before. And frankly speaking, Kakashi had no real connection to her. Namake's Minato was dead, so the link between them was broken. Kakashi came to the Sand Federation this time, also carrying a task to learn. Because Kabuto Yakushi absolutely refused to become Hokage, Tsunade, after much deliberation within Konoha, selected Hitaki Kakashi. He had good strength, was of suitable age, had a sense of responsibility, and being single wouldn't provoke opposition from other ninja clans. Most importantly, Kakashi wasn't as difficult to deal with as Kabuto Yakushi. With proper persuasion, Kakashi had a high probability of accepting the position of Hokage. This time, Kakashi came to learn about the Sand Federation's operational system, so that when reforming Konoha in the future, it would be easier. What surprised Kakashi was that he would actually meet Noera Rin here. After learning about Rin's situation during this period, Kakashi sighed and said, "If Obito were still here." "Obito is alive, Kakashi." Speaking of Obito, Noera Rin's expression darkened. Kushina's face also looked somewhat unpleasant. Then, finding an excuse, she left the room. Regarding Obito's matter, Kushina didn't want to get involved anymore. Moreover, after learning that Rin could remove the mask and lift the seal in the future, she knew Hyuga Mirai was going to deal with Obito Uchiha. Someone of Kakashi's character, at a glance, was someone who couldn't forget old friends. To avoid him later begging her, Kushina thought it better to go take a look at the sealing barrier team instead. After learning about Obito Uchiha's situation, Kakashi indeed felt a desire to find Obito and persuade him to turn back early. However, this thought was anticipated by Rin. She quickly spoke up to dissuade him. "Kakashi, you really shouldn't go. Mirai-san has already decided to deal with Obito. And now, neither Konoha nor the Sand Federation will allow you to leave your post without authorization. If you insist on leaving, you will definitely be branded a missing nin." The reason Obito could live so freely as a missing nin was because he had the Kamui dimension. Unless the entire ninja world was filled with surveillance, it was very difficult to find Obito Uchiha's traces. And even if found, it was hard to capture him. Aside from a few individuals like Hyuga Mirai, others simply had no way to deal with Obito Uchiha. But Kakashi was different. He had essentially no means of escape. Once he left, he would be identified as a deserter, and would be captured and interrogated within 2 days. But there are no buts. You have no personal connection with Mirai-san. Even Lady Tsunade wouldn't plead for you to Mirai-san. If you defect, you simply cannot leave the Sand Federation. And even if you pleaded, it would be useless. Noera Rin sighed. Last time, even she and Kushina-sensei together were scolded. After that, Kushina-sensei never mentioned the matter again, and spent several days reflecting before considering the matter closed. Kakashi, from now on, you absolutely must not act on your own. If you really want to save Obito, go beg Lady Tsunade, or Kurina Yuhi and Hyuga Kiyo. Noera Rin suggested. If Kakashi really acted on his own, probably even Tsunade wouldn't protect him, despite how much she valued Kakashi. I understand, Rin. Don't worry, I won't act on my own. Kakashi said solemnly. He also understood that the more he acted recklessly, the less chance there would be to secure a way out for Obito. Even though Obito had taken his Sharingan not long ago, Kakashi still believed Obito had unspeakable hardships. If he was willing to turn back and properly atone, there was still a way out. However, what Rin said was also right. If he wanted to save Obito now, begging Lady Tsunade was the best choice. Now he had to undergo 3 months of observation of the government in the Sand Federation. Kakashi, Yamanaka Inoichi, and others were the first batch. Many more would follow later. Moreover, Hyuga Mirai's wedding would be soon. During this period, they couldn't leave the Sand Federation. Even if they could leave the federal capital, it would only be to visit other places under the accompaniment of others. For the Sand Federation and Konoha now, the two most important matters were the merger of the two nations and the marriage alliance between them. In Konoha, since Hyuga Kiyo returned, she had already handed over the affairs of the police force. She also planned to relinquish the position of clan head. However, there was no suitable candidate within the clan, and Hyuga Kiyo had someone in mind, so she postponed the matter. Apart from Hyuga clan members on missions outside, more were busy preparing for the clan head's wedding. Although some were dissatisfied with the clan head marrying alongside two other women, since the clan head herself agreed, they couldn't say much. They could only do their best to prepare the wedding well, so as not to embarrass the clan head. The wedding preparation plan submitted by the federal high officials contained over 20 pages of references from the Hyuga clan. When it came to the inheritance of etiquette, no one could compare to a millennia-old ninja clan like them. Even the daimyo of the great nations were inferior in this aspect. Aspects like rituals and ceremonial attire, which many Hyuga clan members had gradually stopped using, didn't stop them from bringing them out for their clan head's wedding. Moreover, Hyuga Mirai was also from the Hyuga clan, and possessed a bloodline limit that had evolved beyond the Byakugan. After their union, they would surely give birth to the most powerful genius in the history of the Hyuga clan. Therefore, for the future glory of the Hyuga clan, they were now almost mobilizing the entire clan's strength to support this wedding. Isn't this too strange? Is it necessary to dress so formally? Looking at herself in the mirror, Hyuga Kiyo saw that except for her face, everything else was covered by various garments and ornaments. Even her hair was full of accessories. It was only because Hyuga Kiyo was a taijutsu-type ninja that she could handle it. Anyone else with so many things on their head would have already strained their neck. Not at all, Kiyo-sama. You look very noble now. You will definitely be the most eye-catching on the day. Hyuga came to Hyuga Kiyo's side and explained with a smile, these are the Hyuga clan's crest ornaments, representing the blessing of the moon god, representing. Alright, that's not important. Hyuga Kiyo interrupted Yu's explanation. If she let her finish, it would probably take an hour. What I care about now is that method of yours, it still doesn't seem to be working. There isn't much time left. Do you have any other methods? This. Upon hearing this, Hyuga also felt a headache. She had tried every method she could think of and even pretended to have her own troubles to seek help at the Konoha hospital. However, after Kiyo-sama tried all the methods, there was still no effect. Now Hyuga also didn't know what to do. In such a situation, probably only consulting Lady Tsunade could solve it. Kiyo-sama, how about using some padding? Padding? Hyuga Kiyo was stunned for a moment upon hearing this. Soon, she realized what Hyuga meant. A blush appeared on her cheeks, and then she shook her head firmly, saying, how is that possible? This is a wedding. And really, there's no other way at all. Just a little bigger would be fine. Hyuga said somewhat awkwardly, Kiyo-sama, all methods have been tried. Aside from padding. Alright, I'll go inquire about other methods. There's no need to inquire further. Let it be, Miss Kiyo. A familiar voice reached Hyuga Kiyo's ears. Hearing someone advise her to give up, Hyuga Kiyo instinctively retorted, how can I give up? This kind of thing, When did you get here? Mid-sentence, Hyuga Kiyo suddenly felt the voice was somewhat familiar. She turned to look and saw Hyuga Mirai sitting at the table in the distance. I've been here for a while. Probably around the time you thought this outfit was too strange. I think so too. Hyuga Mirai seriously examined the ornaments and attire on Hyuga Kiyo's body and said. The Yamatsu Hirasaka, if not seen with the eyes, was difficult to detect even for Sasuke Uchiha, who had obtained 6 paths power. Since Hyuga Kiyo hadn't activated her Byakugan, she naturally didn't know when Hyuga Mirai had arrived. Well then, Kiyo-sama, I'll take my leave first. Hyuga Yu, with great tact, left the room. After leaving, she even thoughtfully locked the door. The sound of the lock clicking made the blush on Hyuga Kiyo's face almost spread to her fair neck. End of chapter. Equals 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 equals. Drop them power stones, please. Support me on Patreon if you'd like access on advanced chapters. I have finished all the chapters and uploaded them there. Patreon.com/turd translations, just remove the space. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.